before razors hummed under bathroom lights, before wax strips snapped against skin, before the glowing screen showed you ads for electric trimmers and 5-blade systems. There was a time, long, long before, when hair meant many things: power, shame, pride, beauty, filth, divinity, and defiance. A time when queens like Cleopatra anointed their skin in oils before pulling hair with sugared pastes. When Norse warriors smoothed their beards with bone combs beside roaring fjords. And when Romans chattered in marble bathhouses, exchanging gossip as their hairs were plucked one by quiet, sharp-fingered slaves. Yes, dear wanderer of the night, you live in a world shaped by blades and beauty, but the story of body hair, that tale goes back thousands of years, and it is older, stranger, and softer than you think. But first, where are you listening from? I'd love to know what time it is for you, and where in the world this quiet history has found you tonight. Drop your location and time in the comments. It's always comforting to imagine all of us, little glowing lanterns scattered across the map, listening together in the hush of evening. Now, lie back. Nestle into your favourite pillow. Wrap your blanket around your shoulders. Breathe in and out, in and out. Let the lights dim behind your eyelids. Let the edges of the day dissolve into something gentler. Tonight, you travel not to a single place, but to many, across centuries and continents, through perfumes and fires, marble and dust. You will walk, in sandals, bare feet, and even furs, beside those who shaped their identities strand by strand. Let us begin. You awaken to warmth. The sun is not yet burning, but it simmers, low and forgiving on the horizon, casting a long golden sigh over the sands. The air carries the first hints of spice and charcoal, rising from distant hearths in the city below. You lie on a woven mat, the scent of crushed myrrh lingering in the threads. You're in ancient Egypt, somewhere in Thebes, perhaps Memphis. Perhaps the name of the city no longer matters, only the breath of the past that wraps around you like linen. You sit up. Your skin is smooth and oiled from last night's ablutions. You were bathed not in water alone, but in intention. Body hair, that most natural of things, has no place here, not on a noble woman like you, not in this heat, not in this court. In this time, hair is a contradiction. On the head, a symbol of fertility, grandeur, divinity even. Coiled into wigs, sometimes heavy, adorned with gold threads. On the rest of the body, a blemish to be removed. You run a hand across your forearm. Smooth. You remember yesterday, reclining on the stone bench of your family's private bath. A servant, quiet and practiced, pressed a paste of sugar, water, and lemon juice onto your skin. Sugaring, they called it. Halawa. It was warm, comforting. Then, suddenly, a sharp pull. The paste had cooled, and the hair had come with it. Even Cleopatra, or so the priestesses say, favoured this ritual. She wore perfumes of blue lotus, lined her eyes with kohl, and presented herself, hairless and gleaming, like a goddess sculpted from alabaster. You once heard that she had her slaves pluck each hair individually from her legs by candlelight, but it was not just vanity, it was cleanliness, it was class, it was control. Insects were fewer when there was no body hair to catch sweat. Smell was minimised. Status was emphasised. Smoothness was divine. A woman unshaven was uncivilised, or worse, foreign. You rise now and step out of the shaded portico, passing a mirror of polished bronze. For a moment, you see yourself reflected in that golden metal, a face framed by intricate braids, shoulders soft and bare, your body anointed in oil and ritual. 1,000 years from now, people will wonder how you lived. They will ask, did Cleopatra wax? And you will whisper through the ages, yes, oh yes, and so did I. The city awakens below, figs are being sliced open, priests are preparing incense. A servant passes with a fresh bowl of beeswax still warm for your mother's bath. You're part of something ancient, not just Egypt, but the ageless dance between body and belief, between how we grow and what we choose to shed. And as you descend into the courtyard drowsy from your dreams, You realise this is just the beginning. Tonight you were Egyptian, but tomorrow you might be Roman, you might be a Viking, you might be a medieval monk or a 19th century Parisian, each with your own rituals, your own blade, your own reasons, each with your own body and its secret, silent conversation with hair. You walk now through another world entirely, and the air is different here. Cooler, drier, perfumed with lavender, sweat, and the faint mineral tang of heated stone. The sun slants low between marble columns, and the sky above the Thermae is a pale wash of Mediterranean blue. You move with quiet purpose across the mosaic floor of the Apoditerium, where men and women of status once undressed, folded their garments, and stepped barefoot into the rhythms of Roman cleanliness and class. Your hand brushes the wall, cool and rough, its stone worn smooth by centuries of passing fingers. Voices hum around you, not loud, never loud, just murmurs of gossip, of politics, of poetry quoted under one's breath, and beneath that, the rhythmic scritch of bronze strigils scraping oil and dust and hair from skin. Here in Rome, hair was not something to be celebrated, not unless it sat in ringlets atop the head, or was teased into elaborate styles by slaves with nimble fingers and infinite patience. Body hair, however, was a different matter entirely. You step into the tepidarium, where the warmth first begins to coax sweat from your skin, and you remember what your friend Livia told you once. A woman should have no more hair than a peach. You had laughed then, unsure if it was a joke, but now you know it wasn't. A servant approaches carrying a dish of perfumed olive oil and a small curved strigil made of bronze. You take it without words. There is no need for them. You anoint your skin, arms, legs, belly, with the oil, feeling the heat of the room deepen the scent. Then the blade begins its work, not sharp but firm, scraping the oil and everything within it into small glistening ridges. The hair goes with it, along with the day's grime, the dead skin, the invisible weight of existence. Romans did not shave with razors as you know them, not commonly, not unless they were wealthy men with access to barbers, or slaves with steady hands. Women, meanwhile, had other tools: tweezers, pumice stones, pastes made from resin and pitch, and the ever-present strigil. You glance to the side and see another woman, older, seated calmly while her maid daubs a paste of ground ant eggs onto her legs. An old wives' tale, perhaps, but one that lingers. The idea that it slows hair's return, softens it, silences it. You've tried it yourself once. It smelled faintly of vinegar and earth. The room shifts around you, and now you're in the caldarium, where the steam is thick and the breath comes slower. Here, even senators sweat. Even poets. You listen as someone quotes Catullus nearby, something about love and smooth skin and longing. You think again about the unspoken rules of your time, that a smooth body signals discipline, wealth, civilization, that to be unshaven is to be marked as foreign, barbarian. The Gauls, after all, were mocked for their hairy bodies, just as the Greeks were praised for their balance, their moderation, and you, here in Rome, learn to hold your body like a scroll, clean and legible, written in smooth strokes without stray ink. Later, in the frigidarium, your skin tightens in the cold, and you feel newly born. The oils are gone, the sweat evaporated. What remains is this: a body shaped by centuries of belief, of aesthetic, of power wielded over hair, as if it were a weed in a garden constantly pruned. Outside, Rome bustles. Vendors shout beneath the aqueducts. A boy runs with figs in his hands. Somewhere in the Subura someone sharpens a barber's blade. But you remain here a moment longer, in this temple of smoothness, where the body becomes its own artifact. You are Roman now, clean and prepared, ready to dress once more and step into the forum, your limbs whispering of order, of ritual, of something hidden just beneath the skin. The chill is sharp this morning, and the breath you exhale clings close to your lips in a fog that disappears before it rises. You step out of the longhouse, boots crunching against a thin frost that has crusted the grass overnight, and the sound is the only one for some time. The fjord glints pale silver in the early light. The mountains beyond are still sleeping, and the world smells of pine smoke and damp wool. You tighten your cloak and draw it higher around your throat. This is the north, the faraway land of sagas and steel, where the fire burns even in summer, and the sea is never far. And here too hair matters. Inside the longhouse, the hearth still crackles. You return to it, to the warmth, to the wooden bench where your comb lies. It is made of bone. Not yours, of course, though you sometimes imagine whose it might have been, carved with care and notched with age. The teeth are close together, too close for comfort if you tug too fast, but you don't. You've learned the rhythm. Every morning begins this way. Among the Norse, grooming is not luxury, it is ritual. Warriors are buried with combs. Traders carry tweezers beside their silver scales. You've seen a man gut a fish with one hand and oil his beard with the other. You've seen women pluck their eyebrows by the fire using bronze mirrors so polished they hold no secrets. The sagas don't always mention it, but the past is rarely as wild as the present imagines. The Norse were not beasts. They braided, they trimmed, they plucked. You draw the comb through your hair slowly, pulling out yesterday's knots. Beside you, a woman stirs a small pot of lard and ashes over the coals. She dips a cloth into it, tests the texture with her thumb. This is for your arms. A simple, brutal paste of fat and iron oxide that will burn the hair off after a while. Not pleasant, but nothing here is. The ritual is done only now and then, before feasts, before weddings, before battle. You wonder who first thought of it. The men shave too, some of them, at least around the cheeks and under the chin. Others braid their beards with beads and wax. You've seen warriors line up outside the bathhouse with razors made of iron and stones to sharpen them. There are no mirrors in the wilds, but they use bowls of water to see their faces, leaning close until the breath fogs the surface. Hair, here, is tied to identity, to honour. Cleanliness is not a Roman affectation, but a necessity of survival. Lice flourish in furs, dirt clings in beards, and so you wash in hot springs when the rivers freeze, you scrape your skin with fishbone if no blade is near. Some believe the gods favour the smooth, others say Odin wears a long beard of frost. You think of Freya, whose brows are said to be so fine they cast no shadow. There is a story told in the north of a woman who plucked every strand of hair from her legs before her wedding day. She walked into the feast with skin gleaming like river rock, and her husband-to-be offered her a comb of gold as a gift. She used it once, then buried it beside her mother when she passed. That is the way here. Objects become memory. You wonder if one day someone will comb their hair with yours. The paste has cooled now. You smooth it across your forearms. It tingles, then burns, but not enough to cry out. When you wipe it away, the hairs come with it. Some reluctant, some eager, like warriors falling to a blade. You do not smile, you do not flinch. This is not vanity, this is identity. You will braid your hair before the evening feast, wear your pendant of Thor's hammer, and speak your name with pride. You are of the north, you are wind and pine and iron and snow. You do not shimmer like Cleopatra, nor lounge like a Roman, but your smooth arms and oiled braids speak their own language. And when you step outside again, the cold will kiss your bare skin, and you will walk to the shipyard as though no one before you ever dared to be so bare beneath the sky. The sun does not rise quickly here. It unfurls, slow and deliberate, painting the eastern sky in veils of saffron and rose. You sit cross-legged beneath a wide banyan tree, its roots hanging like tendrils from above, and around you the world hums with the quiet rituals of dawn. Temple bells chime softly in the distance, rhythmic and hypnotic, each note like a drop of water into stillness. The scent of sandalwood smoke coils in the air, twining with the smell of earth just turned by the gardener's hoe. It is peaceful, yes, but precise. Even here, in the hush of spiritual intention, the body remains a canvas, and the hair upon it a language of its own. You wear linen, finely woven, wrapped close around your form. Your feet are bare. Your skin has been washed in cool water drawn from the riverbank at first light. You rose before the household stirred, before the cooking fires were lit, before the merchants' oxen began their daily sighing along the stone roads. In this land, where the seasons bleed slowly into one another and the rains are sacred, the body is a site of discipline. To tend it is not vanity, it is a prayer. In your hand rests a smooth stone bowl filled with uptan, a golden paste made from turmeric, chickpea flour, a touch of milk and drops of oil perfumed with vetiver. It's warm from being set beside the brazier, and as you touch it to your skin, the scent blooms. Earthy, bitter, sweet. You rub it into your arms in slow circles, fingers gliding over familiar places. The paste dries as you move, tightening slightly. When you begin to scrub it away, the fine hair beneath it loosens, clings to the mixture, and lifts from your skin with little ceremony. There is no ripping here, no razors, only gentle abrasion and patient repetition, as if removing what does not belong, as if unburdening. This ritual is older than the scriptures some recite before sleep. It is passed from mother to daughter, from sister to sister, and always with the same soft words. Do not forget your neck or your elbows or the space behind the knees. Cleanliness is more than outer virtue. It is moral. It is part of Dharma. And while men tend their beards with neemwood combs, applying ash to the forehead and sandal to the chest, women remove the excess. Not all of it, never all, but just enough to let the glow of the skin emerge like moonlight from behind a cloud. You remember being younger, watching your aunt crouched over a brass mirror, threading her eyebrows with a length of fine cotton between her teeth and fingers. Her hands moved with astonishing speed, the thread catching each hair with a sharp, almost musical rhythm. When she was done, her brow line curved like the bow of a deity, serene, sculpted, sacred. You wanted to look like that. Not for anyone else, just to feel the balance. Even the goddesses here are not unkempt. Durga's hair flows wild, but her body gleams like polished copper. Lakshmi is said to be fragrant always, her skin like new lotus petals. Even ascetics, those who renounce the world, carry small razors to scrape their heads clean before each pilgrimage. You once met one, on the road to Varanasi. His scalp was smooth, marked by sun and wisdom. His voice was soft. He said that to remove the hair was to remove the tether, to unfasten what binds the self to the dust of the world. The uptan has dried completely now. You take a cloth and begin to scrub, the golden paste flaking away, carrying with it the tiny threads of hair, the lingering oils of yesterday. The cloth darkens, your skin beneath is warm and faintly flushed, and in the places where the light catches you look newly born, not perfect, not barren, but intentional. Someone walks past, a cousin perhaps, returning from the river, and smiles at you briefly. They do not need to ask what you are doing. It is known, it is understood. The practice is older than both of you, and it will outlast you both. It is not performed for desire, not for shame, not even always for beauty. It is performed because the body is a vessel for the soul, and like any vessel, it must be tended with care. The birds overhead stir. A temple gong sounds again, deeper this time. You gather your bowl, the cloth, the folded shawl. Today, you will visit the marketplace. You will buy lentils and turmeric. You will light a lamp before your grandfather's shrine. But beneath your cotton wraps, your skin will hum with the quiet memory of this morning's ritual. And your story, like the stories of Egypt, of Rome, of the North, now carries the scent of sandalwood and ancient grain, of yellow powder and patience, and it goes on. There is salt in the air here, not the dry bitter kind, but something softer, like the sea has whispered its essence into the morning wind and let it settle on the whitewashed stone. You're perched on a wooden stool outside a modest home built into the hillside, its walls thick to hold back the summer heat, its doorway shaded with vines that drip with purple grapes just beginning to soften in the sun. You're on a Greek island, though the name it carries now is not the name it bore then, and the time is sometime before what we call time, when Homer's verses were still only drifting between mouths, and every village had its own gods, and every woman knew the secrets of wax and thread and fire. Inside, the house is dim. A pot boils gently over a hearthstone, the scent of thyme rising with the steam. The voice of an old woman hums from the next room, low and rhythmic. Not quite a song, not quite a spell. She's mixing the sugar now. Thick, amber gold honey from the combs harvested days ago, with lemon juice and a measure of water. You've seen her do this 100 times. She never measures anything, yet the result is always the same. She calls it melika, some call it sugaring. It is for the skin, she says, for the hair that does not belong, for the places we want to be untouched. You prepare the cloth strips while the mixture cools, linen torn from old robes, frayed at the edges but clean. The air is warm now, and your skin already beads with sweat, not from exertion but from the nearness of summer. You sit with your legs stretched out, bare and waiting, as the woman pours the cooled mixture into a shallow dish and kneels beside you. Her hands are quick, practiced. She speaks only to murmur warnings. Breathe in now, or this part stings more, or don't twitch, or it will break the skin. She presses the paste against your thigh, smooths it down with the flat of her palm, lays the cloth atop it, and waits for one heartbeat. Then she pulls. There is a sound like tearing silk. You wince. Not from pain, not quite, but from surprise. The skin beneath feels warm, not raw, but strangely awakened. She does it again. Then again. You close your eyes. This is not done in private, nor is it whispered about. Among women here, it is shared. The removal of hair is not shameful, nor is it demanded, but it is preferred. Expected, even. Brides must be smooth, it is said. Priestesses too, before they enter the temple. The body is made sacred by how it is kept, and so it must be kept well. The old woman says she learned this from her grandmother, who learned it from hers, all the way back to when they traded herbs for olive oil in the agora and sang to Artemis as they bathed in streams. Some say even Aphrodite herself bathed this way, rubbing her legs with sweet honey and seawater, plucking the hairs with seashells before emerging radiant from the foam. Others laugh at this. The gods don't care about such things, they say. But deep down, no one truly believes the gods are untouched by beauty. You are nearly finished now. The cloths lie discarded beside you, sticky and golden, glinting with strands of what you've shed. Your thighs are smooth, tingling slightly in the breeze. The old woman leans back and inspects her work with a narrowed gaze. She nods once. "You'll catch a fisherman's eye today," she says with a half-smile, not unkind. You laugh, not because you care to catch one, but because the ritual makes you feel like you could, if you wished. It is not about being desired. It is about being deliberate. You go down to the shoreline later that day, dipping your feet in the sea's foam. The sun is higher now, and the water is glass clear, stretching out toward the horizon where the sails of Phoenician traders shimmer faintly like clouds. You walk along the beach, sandals dangling from one hand, feeling your skin breathe beneath your robe. Each step stirs the sand, each grain brushing gently against your legs, like the ghost of what used to be there. A girl walks past with her mother. The girl is young, her arm still soft with downy hair. Her mother carries a jar of olive oil and a strip of cloth. They look at you, not long, just enough to mark your passage, to recognize that you too have passed through the ritual, the invisible thread that binds generations of women across islands and years. Above you, gulls wheel in the blue sky. Below, the waves curl and withdraw, whispering back into the depths, and you know that this too is ancient. The act of choosing, of tending, of changing what nature gave, not out of disdain, but of desire for order, clarity, offering. You're no longer in Egypt, nor Rome, nor beneath the fjords. You're Aegean now, and sweet with the memory of honey. And the story, ever sticky with time, moves onward. The city is alive long before the sun rises, its breath warm with clay dust and the slow, steady rhythms of labour. You walk through its narrow streets just as the sky lightens from indigo to pale grey, the air thick with the scent of bitumen, wool, and distant fires. This is Ur, or maybe Nineveh, or perhaps some other name that's since crumbled into tablets and forgotten syllables. But the river is the Tigris, and its water, drawn in woven baskets, fills the basins of morning ritual. You're not royalty, not a priestess, not a slave. You're something in between, as most people were, and your place in the world is precise, shaped by the hands of the gods, the cycle of the moon, and the invisible laws that govern skin, dress, and the presence of hair. You wake with the weight of the air already pressing against your skin. The first thing you do, before food, before voice, is pour a bowl of water and check your body. Your fingers skim your face, the ridge of your chin, the softness of your upper lip. Here, even the suggestion of a stray hair is met with swift removal. You light a sliver of fat-soaked reed, let the flame catch just enough, then extinguish it, and use the ash to darken your brows with a small bronze needle. Carefully, smoothly. The brows must arch just so, symmetrical, deliberate, a mark of discipline. In this land, cleanliness is holiness. The temple codes say as much, to be in the presence of the divine, to speak before an idol, to touch sacred tools, one must be pure, and purity here includes the body. Men shave their heads in honour of the gods, and women remove the hair from their arms, legs and underarms as a sign of devotion. Some use copper razors, sharpened daily on stone. Others apply pastes made from pulverised seeds and crushed lye, thick and caustic, left just long enough to weaken the follicle before being scraped away with a dull edge. You've tried both. Neither is gentle, both are necessary. There is an old woman in the market who sells soapwort and niter, and she teaches you once to make a depilatory that works more slowly, less cruelly. It must be warmed over low heat, stirred with a copper rod, and stored in clay. You rub it on in thin coats, leave it for the count of 50 heartbeats, then rinse it away with lukewarm water. The result is never perfect, but it satisfies, better than the sudden slice of a razor, better than the burn of lye. She says her mother taught her. You wonder how long that line stretches, a chain of women passing recipes not for food, but for skin. The elite women in the palace are different. They have slaves to do the work. They lie on stone beds while others tend their bodies with wax and knives. You hear rumours that Queen Shibtu, the wife of Zimri Lim of Mari, once demanded her entire court be waxed weekly, from neck to toe, to match the smoothness of her favourite goddess's statue. The men too. Even the beards, if not kept thick and styled, were considered crude, trimmed, curled, dyed black with coal. The obsession with hair was not vanity, it was order. It was culture carved into flesh. You carry your razor in a linen wrap. It is copper, curved, worn smooth by use, the handle etched with a simple motif, reeds, birds, and the spiral of the wind. It is not ceremonial, but it feels sacred in your hand. Each time you press it to your skin, you are participating in something older than any ziggurat, older than law, older than memory. You are tending a boundary between what is natural and what is allowed to remain. Later in the day, as the sun climbs and the dust thickens, you walk past the temple's outer courtyard. Women are lining up with baskets of offering. Oil, figs, flowers, and once or twice, you see a strip of linen stained with what might be hair, given not as waste, but as proof that they have purified, that they have obeyed, that they are ready to be seen. You know this too. The city watches. The gods may see or may not, but the eyes of others never look away. And so, you keep your skin smooth, your eyebrows shaped, your legs oiled and scraped, not for beauty, not for seduction, for stillness, for quiet approval, for the sound of your own feet on the dusty street, knowing you have fulfilled what is expected. The wind off the river stirs your robe. In the distance a boy leads a donkey heavy with jars. A man chants softly as he arranges tablets. Someone, somewhere, lights incense and scrapes a blade across a face. And your story joins theirs. Another name among many, another skin touched by copper and care. You are Mesopotamian now, and your ritual lives between water and ash, between devotion and demand. The story continues. You're inside a villa high above the streets of Alexandria, where the sea breeze filters through pale curtains that move like ghosts, where the air is steeped in crushed jasmine and worn scrolls. The sun has not yet crossed the upper windows, and the marble beneath your bare feet is cool, faintly damp from the servants' morning waterings. This is not the ancient Greece of Homer or Sparta, not the feral nobility of war, or the wide fields of philosophy carved in stone. This is something else. Post-conquest, a fusion, Egypt and Athens tangled like vines, and the women here have inherited more than languages. They've inherited expectations. You stand in the atrium, arms bare, watching the girl beside you heat a mixture of resin and beeswax over a small brazier. Her face is neutral, trained into stillness, but her eyes flick now and then toward your shins, your arms, the place beneath your navel that disappears under gauze. She waits. She knows what to do, so do you. You remove your outer robe and sit on the low platform near the wall, back straight. There is no embarrassment. There is no modesty. This is routine. You have been smoothed since girlhood, since your mother's mother first placed a strip of cloth over your forearm and whispered that a lady should never have to be mistaken for an animal. You remember crying once, when a patch was ripped too roughly and left a welt that throbbed until evening. Your aunt slapped the girl who'd done it, and then finished the job herself with a tenderness so quiet it almost embarrassed you. Afterwards she said, Even the gods are hairless, child. Do not think you are made to be different. The paste is ready now. You test it with your wrist. Not hot, just warm. And then she begins. She applies it with a wooden paddle, layer by careful layer, then presses linen over it with long strokes of her palm. She counts beneath her breath. Then she pulls. The sound is always the same. Like silk ripped open, like silence being turned inside out. Your face does not change. Neither does hers. You breathe evenly, eyes fixed on a patch of mosaic floor that depicts a dolphin leaping beside a ship. Alexandria is full of contradictions. Here, women speak 3 tongues and quote Aristotle between cups of fig wine. They carry styluses and write in the margins of scrolls stolen from Athens and Babylon. They own property. Some study medicine, some teach, but none escape this ritual. Even philosophers must present themselves clean. Smoothness is not weakness here. It is refinement, precision. The body is to be shaped, like marble, to its best expression. And hair is debris. Hair is unchosen. You think of your friend Callista, who once refused to depilate for a month in protest. Not against society, but against her own boredom. She arrived at a gathering bare-armed but hairy-legged, and the glances she received could have sliced her open. Not from men, from women. A grandmother shook her head. A girl no older than 10 smirked behind her cup. It wasn't that she looked wrong. It was that she looked incomplete. You do not want to be incomplete. Afterward, your attendant wipes the skin with rosewater and dabs it with a salve made of goat's milk and crushed almond. Your skin stings, but only faintly. It is the familiar sting of returning to your rightful shape. You dress again slowly, folding fabric over smoothness, over deliberate absence. When you walk back through the colonnade, your body leaves no sound behind. The marble remembers everything else. Outside, the city swells with life. Students shout beneath the library's steps. Bakers sweep flour from their stalls. Sailors arrive from Rhodes and Carthage, shouting in tongues you only half understand. But here in the upper quarter, the world is quieter, cleaner, more curated. Even the statues lining the garden walk are without a single carved hair on their arms or legs. They shine like gods. You pause before one such figure. A woman draped in folds that mimic silk, one breast exposed, eyes lifted towards something distant. Her body is pure geometry, her skin unreal in its lack of blemish or texture. You know her name is fictional. She was never real, and yet her absence of hair, of anything animal, is something generations have learned to mimic. You step past her, down the stairs, into the street. Your skin feels thin, almost translucent in the sunlight, but strong, controlled. The ritual lingers not in the wax, but in the absence, in the silence it leaves behind. You are Alexandrian now, and like so many who pass through this city, you are made of contradiction. Learning and labour. Flesh and flame. You carry scrolls in one hand and a razor in the other. You speak of stars with a waxed upper lip, and still, your story is only beginning. The road here is not paved. It winds, soft and slow, through low hills and stone terraces planted with olive trees. Dust clings to your sandals, fine as flour, and the smell of thyme and wild fennel trails behind you. You arrive at the bathhouse just as the sun leans westward, its light slanting golden across the landscape, setting the stone walls aglow as if fire burned beneath them. This place is not Rome, though it learned from Rome, not Persia, though it listens for its echoes. This is Anatolia, the bridge, the middle world, and in its bathhouses the old ways smoulder like coals buried in ash. You pass through the outer arch into the dim atrium, where baskets of reeds and folded linens are stacked in silence. A woman takes your sandals, another leads you inward. No one speaks above a murmur. The heat does the talking. The air thickens as you go deeper, first warm, then heavy, then damp, until your skin glistens before any water touches it. You do not flinch. You know what is expected. This bathhouse is old, older than your mother, your grandmother, perhaps even the empire itself. The walls sweat with stories. The marble basins are cracked, but clean. Candles gutter in wall niches, their light like amber caught mid-breath. You're guided to a small alcove, where a bowl of oil waits, dark, thick, smelling faintly of myrtle and ash. A woman with strong hands rubs it over your skin, working it deep, tracing the grain of your muscles with familiarity. Then she applies the soot mixed with milk, burnt almond shell, crushed olive pits. This is the depilatory paste used here, rubbed on, left to sting, then scraped away with a flat horn blade. The pain is brief, but sharp, a punishment almost, though you cannot say for what. You never ask what's in it. You only know it works. The hair pulls away like fog rolling off hills, revealing skin underneath that feels new, almost vulnerable. There's a superstition that says hair is where memory lives, that each strand remembers touch, carries the trace of words spoken against the body. Perhaps that's why it must be removed, to forget, to cleanse not just the flesh, but the stories clinging to it. You think of this as the blade scrapes your thigh, each motion slow, rhythmic. The woman hums a lullaby under her breath, not for you, but for herself, as if singing to drown out the sound of centuries. When she finishes, she rinses you with water drawn from a spring cooled by buried clay. It shocks you, even though you expect it. Your skin burns, not with heat, but with attention. Then she rubs you with a cloth steeped in lavender and salt. It smells like fire that forgot how to be wild, like calm. Women here speak less of beauty and more of smoothness. Not for attraction, not for the gaze, but for balance, for ease, for the softness that allows garments to slide without friction, for the oil to absorb properly, for the rituals to leave no trace behind. The priestesses who serve in the temples come here weekly. They are required to be clean, utterly clean. Their gods demand bare skin and unscented limbs. Some say even the dead are bathed this way, prepared with oils, scraped and rinsed, sent into the afterlife hairless, faceless, pure. You dry yourself by the furnace, the stones still radiating warmth. The bathhouse is quieter now. Somewhere behind the walls, water pours into another chamber. The old woman who anointed you is folding cloths into perfect squares. She does not look at you. She does not need to. You step outside into the evening, your skin tasting the breeze. There is no mirror here, but you feel your shape in every movement. The linen brushing against freshly bare legs, the wind slipping under your collar, the way your arms no longer whisper as they move. You think, perhaps, that the smoothness has reached deeper than your skin, that it has stripped something else, older, quieter, from you. But you do not feel lost. You feel exact. The moon is rising, dull and gold, and the sky is violet above the hills. Somewhere a shepherd calls to his dog. Somewhere a woman lights a lamp, and you walk between them, hairless as a flame, silent as a prayer not meant to be answered. You are Anatolian now, and here the fire remembers, the blade is kept near, the water forgets for you, and the story moves forward still. It is morning, but the sky is hidden. Not by clouds, not quite, but by a kind of softness. The pale haze of incense smoke and river mist that coils through the air like a lingering thought. You're in the interior courtyard of a well-appointed house, the woodwork carved with cranes and chrysanthemums, the floor paved in stone warmed by the steam drifting from a lacquered copper basin. Bamboo leaves rustle faintly beyond the screen wall, and a caged bird sings a precise crystalline song that seems to fall in and out of time. A servant kneels before you with a porcelain jar in her hands, the lid already loosened. The paste inside is dark grey, smelling faintly of camphor, of green tea turned bitter by time. She begins applying it with a brush, fine-bristled, horsehair, meant originally for calligraphy. But here it is used on the skin. She paints in even strokes, from ankle to knee, a thin, glistening coat. It cools instantly, tightening your pores and silencing any heat beneath the surface. You do not move. You have done this since girlhood. In the Han court, smoothness is not merely aesthetic. It is philosophical. The Tao teaches harmony between inner and outer worlds, between what is natural and what is refined. Body hair, particularly for women, is seen as excess, a wildness to be tempered, a noise to be quieted. You are taught that it is an offering, not a shame. The removal of hair, like sweeping fallen petals from the floor of a scholar's study. Necessary, mindful, never rushed. There are many ways to remove hair here. Depilatory powders, known as tuofasan, are made from crushed walnut shells, barley ash, and dried herbs mixed into water or vinegar. Some women use thin threads, twisted between fingers and teeth, to pull the hair from the root in sharp, precise flicks, a method learned from southern traders, adapted and improved. The more delicate among the court's concubines used tweezers of gold or polished horn, sculpting their brows and faces as an artist shapes clay. No one speaks of razors. Blades are for butchers and soldiers. Here, things are removed with care. You remember a time, years ago, when a travelling doctor claimed to have discovered a more permanent method. A mixture of fermented rice water and lotus resin that, he said, would cause the hair never to grow back. The noblewomen lined up in silence, curious and wary. Most refused. Some tried. You were not among them. You do not trust finality. You believe in cycles. In return, the paste on your legs has dried to a film. The servant kneels again, this time with a cloth soaked in warmed chrysanthemum tea. She begins to rub, gently, rhythmically. The paste crumbles away, bringing with it the fine hairs, the faint dullness of unpolished skin. What remains is pale, warm, fragrant, not raw, but revealed. The process leaves you feeling not exposed, but precise, edited, like a poem pared down to its most graceful lines. Your grandmother used to say, "A woman's refinement begins where her body ends." She meant that the visible is only half the story, that how you tend to what no one sees is what defines your worth. You're not sure you believe her, but still, you keep to the ritual, not out of fear, not out of vanity, but out of habit. A habit that has become shape, that has become quiet pride. In the afternoons, scholars gather in the main hall to read aloud from the Shiji, the records of the grand historian. They speak of emperors and battles and omens, but never of women's rituals. Those live elsewhere, in kitchens, in bathhouses, in hushed corners of courtyards like this one, where oil lamps flicker beside bowls of crushed plumstone and silk cloth stained with herbal ash. You rise now, and your robe falls against your skin without resistance. There is no friction, no interruption. You walk across the stone tiles in silence. The bird has stopped singing. The bamboo shifts again, and you pass beneath it, becoming for a moment part of the garden, part of the morning, part of something wordless. You are Han Chinese now, and your body, touched by thread and powder and ancient patience, carries with it the hush of centuries, of silk scrolls, of disappearing ink, of beauty measured not in gold but in restraint. The forest surrounds you like breath, dense, fragrant, alive with the quiet weight of summer. Every leaf above glistens with morning dew, and each breeze through the canopy smells of birch bark, damp soil, and distant fire smoke. You walk the narrow path toward the bathhouse, your fingers trailing along bundles of herbs hung to dry from tree limbs. Wormwood, mint, yarrow, nettle. They crinkle beneath your touch, shedding their oils into the stillness. Somewhere behind you, the village begins to stir. Hens clucking in a low fence, a child's cry, the thud of kindling split against stone. But ahead of you waits the banya, a structure of logs and smoke and heat that hides old customs behind its heavy door. The air inside is thick with steam. It clings to your skin the moment you enter, curling around your ankles, pressing gently against your chest. There is little light, just a single slit of brightness from a vent near the roof, and the dull orange glow of stones heating in the stove. The scent is overwhelming, but comforting. Burning birch, wet wood, and human skin already slick with sweat. This is not a place for conversation. It is for ritual, for cleansing, for transition. You sit on the low wooden bench, feet planted, arms loose. An older woman, bare to the waist, pours ladles of water onto the stove. The room hisses, groans, breathes. Then she begins to sweep a bundle of vennick, birch branches bound with cord, along her limbs, from shoulder to knee, over her back, over her thighs. Not to punish, but to stimulate, to drive the heat deeper. She passes it to you. You do the same. The sting is gentle, almost sweet. The leaves stick briefly to your moist skin, then fall. Here, in the villages scattered across the steppes and the forest edges, hair is not spoken of as beauty or shame. It is discussed as function, as presence, as something to be managed. In winter, it protects. In summer, it breeds sweat. Before weddings, hair is removed. Before religious feasts, before funerals. There is no fixed rule, but there is always a reason. You recall, as a child, watching your cousin kneel beside the fire with a sharpened piece of obsidian. She heated it, not to melt anything, but to sterilize it. Then she used it like a razor, scraping fine lines down her calf, her armpit, her thighs. No soap, just water and patience. She told you later that the skin we carry into marriage must be clean of everything but memory. You never forgot that. The tools here are few: a dull blade, a smooth river stone, soap made from rendered tallow and ash. Sometimes a paste of ground rye and salt is rubbed over the body in circular motions, allowed to dry, then sloughed off with a cloth. The hair comes with it, reluctant but yielding. These methods are not fast, they are not perfect, but they belong. They are shaped by the rhythm of firewood, the slowness of boiling water, the weight of thick braids coiled on young women's heads as they prepare for the longest day of the year. The banya grows hotter. You feel your skin begin to loosen, your thoughts slow. The woman beside you, eyes closed, begins to hum, a melody with no words, old enough to belong to no one. You pour water on the stones again. The hiss feels like release, like a wound stitched shut. Later, when you step out into the dusk, your skin steams in the cold air. The wind licks against your limbs, now stripped of sweat and stubble and old heat. You wrap your wool robe around your shoulders, but beneath it, you feel clean in a way that isn't about appearance. It is deeper than that, as though your skin is no longer yours alone, as though it has been returned to the earth for safekeeping. A girl passes you, carrying a bundle of herbs to hang beside the others. She nods once, eyes low, and you see that her upper lip is red where it's been scraped or rubbed. She'll press cold clay against it later. The sting will fade. You are Slavic now. You carry heat under your skin, birch oil in your pores, the silence of the forest in your bones. Your body is not an ornament. It is a vessel made smooth by steam and tradition, touched by fire, readied for harvest, for feast, for sorrow. There is silence, but it is not empty. It is thick, layered, with the rustle of silk across tatami, the creak of a bamboo frame beneath a curtain, the faintest sound of water dripping into a stone basin. You sit with your legs tucked beneath you in a chamber dimmed by screens of rice paper, the morning light filtered until it becomes less light than texture, like mist upon ink. Outside, the garden shifts with wind, chrysanthemums heavy with dew. Inside, you are still, your breath measured, your body wrapped in pale linen. You're waiting, not for someone, for the moment to begin. Here, in the Heian court, your world is made of surfaces: paper, silk, lacquer, skin, and every surface must be tended. There is no such thing as simplicity here. Everything is deliberate, every gesture refined into a system. Even how the body is prepared, even how its smallest details are shaped, is steeped in form and intention. Hair, in this context, is both presence and absence. The head, allowed to grow long, longer still, a mark of elegance. But the rest, removed, whispered away by powders, tools, and ceremony. Not publicly, never openly, but precisely. Your maid kneels beside you, head bowed, eyes down. She speaks only once. To ask if you wish the charcoal warmed or cold, you say warm. She nods, then places the small pot over the brazier. You already feel the heat begin to rise, the scent of sandalwood drifting from an open drawer. She brings out a small box made of kiri wood, unfastens the clasp, and reveals inside not jewels, not paint, but tools. A pair of tweezers carved from mother of pearl, a piece of polished stone, a tiny bowl of white ash, and a coil of twisted silk thread. She begins with your face. The brows must be thinned, curved delicately, no stray hairs allowed. Some women shave them off entirely, replacing them with smudges of black pigment drawn high on the forehead, a custom inherited from generations ago, still half-honoured. You don't erase yours completely. You prefer the in-between, present but shaped. The tweezers move quickly, each hair pulled from its root with a whisper of pain so slight it hardly reaches your nerves. You do not flinch. Next, she prepares the ash. This is not the rough ash of burnt wood, but sifted, purified powder, mixed with rice flour and cooled tea water. It is applied in a thin layer along the forearms and calves. When it dries, she uses a cloth soaked in camellia oil to to rub it away in slow, practiced motions. The hair lifts with it, as if deciding of its own accord to depart. It leaves the skin not raw but matte, muted, like the soft side of lacquer, like the underside of a leaf. This is not a practice spoken of in poetry. It is too physical, too close to the body. Yet all the women of the court do it. The ones who compose verses under flowering trees, the ones who write letters with invisible longing, the ones who sleep in layers of silk and smile behind their sleeves. Smoothness is expected, a refinement so absolute that it must seem effortless. Any sign of grooming is considered clumsy. The ideal is that one appears untouched, not because they are natural, but because they have concealed the labour completely. You think of Say Shonagon, who wrote that a lady's appearance should never betray preparation, that to be seen brushing one's hair or painting one's teeth is vulgar. That elegance is not in action, but in the concealment of action. You wonder if she plucked her arms in secret, if she too endured the sting of tweezers in a room like this one, breathing sandalwood, flinching once, briefly, when no one watched. The last part of the ritual is the powdering. Your maid uses a soft cloth to apply oshiroi, the white cosmetic made from rice starch and pearl dust. Not to cover flaws, you have none, but to complete the effect. The body must glow faintly, as if carved from porcelain touched by moonlight. She does not speak as she works. She does not need to. Your silence is a shared language. When she finishes, she places the tools back in their box, seals the lid, and sets it aside. You remain seated for a time, letting the coolness settle into your skin. The robes you will wear today, 12 layers, each dyed with colours to echo the season, hang nearby, untouched. Your hair has already been brushed and lies behind you like a silken river. You are ready, or nearly. You rise slowly, the weight of preparation balanced evenly across your body. There is no mirror in the room, but you do not need one. You can feel the result in the way your sleeves slide without friction, in the way your skin meets the air without sound. You're not simply adorned, you are curated. The body beneath the silk is not forgotten. It is hidden, sculpted into silence. You are Heian now, you write poems in the dark, you walk without noise, you remove what the world is not allowed to notice, and the story, beneath the brocade, beneath the ink, beneath the ash, continues still. The air is thick with jasmine and dust. Over the red sandstone walls of the Haveli, tendrils of flowering vines hang heavy, casting shifting shadows on the courtyard tiles. You sit beneath an arched veranda, sheltered from the noon heat. The walls are painted with faded patterns, turquoise, ochre, deep green, a geometry softened by time. Somewhere within the house, ankle bells jingle faintly as women move from room to room. You hear the scrape of metal bowls, the low thrum of a voice reciting verses from the Ramayana, and the occasional rustle of silk being adjusted. The light is golden, not harsh, filtered through a gauze of rising heat and rosewater steam. This part of the day belongs to the women. The zenana, the inner quarters, where eyes are coal-lined, teeth are cleaned with neem twigs, and skin is prepared with care that borders on worship. You sit with your back straight, arms resting loosely on your thighs. Beside you, a cousin, older, louder, laughing even when nothing is said. She scoops a thick pale yellow paste from a brass bowl with 2 fingers and spreads it across her own leg with quick practiced strokes. It smells sharp, like citrus and crushed shells, like limestone and something vaguely bitter. Tuna, they call it. A lime-based depilatory, mixed with oil and flour to blunt the burn. The older women swear by it. You remember the first time it touched your skin, the sting, the panic, the sudden pleasure of smoothness afterward. Now the sting is expected, a necessary part of the rhythm. She turns to you, grinning, and gestures toward your forearms. You nod. She applies the paste, thick, grainy, cold. It starts to tingle immediately, then burn just enough to remind you of your body's edges. You don't wince, not anymore. In the Mughal courts, where beauty is woven into every surface, every inlay of marble, every carved filigree window, every silk curtain that shifts like a sigh, the body must match its setting. Women are taught to be luminous, not loud, not visible, but softly glowing, not from colour, but from absence, of blemish, of oil, of hair. Smoothness here is not a fashion, It is an ideal, a principle of architecture. Every curve must be unbroken. Servants come and go, checking the mixtures, refreshing the water, folding cotton cloths. You're told that Empress Nur Jahan herself made her own depilatory blends, infusing them with dried rose petals and crushed pearls, that she tested oils on the backs of her hands before instructing her handmaids to apply them to her arms, that she considered fragrance as necessary as effectiveness. The result had to please the nose before it pleased the eye. You watch now as your cousin removes the lime paste with a dull edge of polished shell, scraping the length of your arm slowly. The paste crumbles away in chalky flakes, carrying with it the fine hairs that caught the sunlight like down. The skin beneath is flushed, a little raw, but unmistakably smooth. You can feel the difference instantly, not just in sensation, but in how the air settles differently around you, as though you're now less an object in the world and more a part of its surface. The younger girls whisper as they take turns. Some complain, some wince. One starts to laugh, and your cousin hushes her, though her own mouth curls into a smile. This isn't pain, it's ritual, it's inheritance. It's hours spent sitting on cool stone floors, humming half-remembered songs, rubbing elbows with aunts and sisters while the body is shaped back into its expected form. Afterward, rosewater is poured over your arms, and the scent cuts through the lime. A layer of sandalwood paste follows, not for hair, but for heat, to soothe. It dries into a pale mask, cracking gently when you move. You wait, you listen, you breathe. There is no mirror here, but your cousin pulls one from her pouch. A small, polished circle of glass set in bronze. You lift it, angling the light, and see the line of your jaw, the edge of your cheek where a few errant hairs were threaded away with cotton earlier in the morning. The skin is soft, perhaps too soft, but it is right, and this too will be forgotten in a few days. It always grows back. That's the secret no one says aloud. The ritual never ends. You are Mughal now. You wear scent on your wrists and silence in your gaze. Your limbs are bare beneath embroidered silk, and your skin, stripped with lime and soothed with rose, has joined 1,000 others that came before. You carry their stories in every smooth inch, in every burn, in every sweet, fleeting touch of absence. The city murmurs, always. Even before the sun climbs the horizon, Baghdad breathes in layers, birds in rooftop cages beginning their song, the hush of slippers on tile, the low whistle of a servant heating the day's first water. You are inside a house built inward, its walls wrapped around an open courtyard like a closed hand around a flame. The air here is soft already despite the coming heat. The shadows are long and stretched, and you can smell the coals just beginning to stir. Sweet smoke curls from the brazier. Dates and almonds rest in bowls on the floor. Somewhere behind you, someone hums a verse by Alcanza, her voice barely above breath. You sit near a carved screen of cedarwood, behind which lies a shallow marble basin filled with warm water and floating rose petals, not for bathing, but for rinsing. A dish of sugaring paste cools beside it, gold as honey, thick as sap. Another woman sits cross-legged before you. She dips her fingers into the paste and rolls it into a ball, kneading it slowly between her palms. Her nails are stained with henna. She glances at you, tilts her head slightly, then begins. The paste is made of sugar, lemon, and water. Nothing more, heated until it deepens in colour, then cooled just enough to become pliable. You've watched the process many times. The way it bubbles in the copper pot, the care needed not to overcook it, the exact moment to pull it off the flame and let it rest on damp cloth. It has no scent except for faint sweetness, but it carries the weight of generations. This is not a luxury, it is inheritance. She presses the ball to your leg and smooths it downward, with the grain of hair. The warmth spreads into your skin. Then, with a sudden motion, she pulls upward. The paste lifts, and with it, the hair. You don't cry out. You've long since learned not to. You exhale slowly through your nose and she continues. It goes on like this for a while. Press, smooth, pull, in a rhythm so practiced it feels like music. She doesn't rush, nor does she pause. She moves with the same care a scribe gives to copying a sacred text. In the Abbasid Caliphate, the body is part of refinement. There is no separation between physical and intellectual elegance. You learn poetry alongside perfumery. You recite hadith and memorize medicinal herbs. You read treatises on cleanliness and discuss geometry while your hair is being threaded. Even the prophet spoke of grooming as a form of worship, not excess, not vanity, but tahara, purity. Sugaring is favoured among the women of this city. Unlike wax, it requires no cloth, no implements beyond the hand. It can be washed away with water, and it leaves the skin not raw but tempered, not carved but moulded. You've heard of the city's physicians improving the recipe, adding crushed lavender to prevent inflammation, using camphor afterward to soothe the heat, and those who can afford it follow the sugaring with creams made of almond milk and saffron, but not everyone can afford that. Some women use thread instead, twisted tightly between the fingers, plucking out the hairs one by one with a sharp rhythmic snap. It is slower, more intimate, often done in pairs, facing each other in laughter and light complaints, weaving gossip between flicks of the wrist. You've done this too. You remember your sister once threading your brows while you both whispered verses you weren't supposed to know. Poems passed through open windows, stolen from the lips of men. The sugaring continues. Your legs are smooth now, shining faintly in the morning light. She moves to your arms, your stomach. They fine down across your thighs. The hair here is softer, but she pulls it all the same. There is a philosophy in this, that the self is revealed not just by what it holds, but by what it chooses to remove, that in controlling the body you master its distractions, that to be smooth is not to be desirable, but to be composed. Afterward she rinses your skin with the rose water, her hands slow, almost reverent. The petals brush against you, fragile and temporary. Then she applies a mixture of sandalwood and clay, multani mitti, to cool and protect the skin. You sit still as it dries, feeling the tightness give way to calm. Your body hums, not loudly, like a poem read under the breath, like a candle flickering in a carved niche. You are Abbasid now. You write letters in calligraphy. You quote philosophers and carry honey on your skin. You do not speak of beauty but of adab, elegance of manner, of speech, of motion. And your smoothness is not seen, it is assumed. It lies beneath the silk, beneath the poetry, beneath the curtain that parts only when you choose. The wind moves slowly over the savannah, bending tall grasses with the lazy weight of mid-morning heat. The sky is high and pale, not blue, but bone-white, vast and endless. You walk barefoot across packed earth, each step warm, each toe dusted in ochre from the path that leads between clay huts and stone granaries. The air is still, yet full, with distant goat bells, the creak of carved wood, the rhythmic strike of a pestle in mortar. You pass a small grove where sheena trees grow wide and quiet, their shade broken by shafts of golden light. The path takes you to the women's hut, the place of preparation, of cleansing, of secrecy passed from hand to hand. Inside, it is cool. The walls are daubed in red clay, painted with symbols that speak of rain, fertility, protection. A low fire smoulders at the centre of the room, its smoke threading upward toward a hole in the thatch. You sit on a stool carved generations ago, its legs worn smooth by skin. The elder is already there, grinding a mixture in a shallow stone bowl. Ash from kola wood, dried plantain skins, pounded charcoal and palm oil. The smell is sharp and earthy, sweetened by the smoke. She says nothing at first, only grinds. You've done this before, not often, only when the occasion demands it, when there's a ceremony, a crossing, a moment to mark. Hair here is part of that moment. It marks the wildness of time passing, of growth, of cycles, of nature left untouched. But to be smooth is to say, I have prepared. I'm not only flesh, I'm ready to be seen by ancestors and spirits alike. The elder speaks at last, her voice low, dry like old bark. She tells you the story of the first woman to wear smooth skin, how she used the coals from her hearth to mark herself clean before marriage, how the gods whispered that those without hair on their limbs were closer to wind, more like sky than ground. You don't know if it's true, but the story is older than anything else you know, and so you accept it. She smears the ash mixture onto your legs in long sweeping motions. It is not warm, it's cool, sticky, coarse. She presses it in with her fingers, rubbing it in circles until your skin stings faintly. The charcoal grits against the hair, grips it. She waits. Then, with a rough strip of woven fibre, raffia soaked in warm water, She scrapes it away. The paste comes with it. So does the hair. Your skin underneath is not raw but glowing, alive, as if it has remembered something. There are no mirrors. But the women around you, cousins, aunts, a friend who has just begun her first blood, watch with knowing eyes. They do the same, each in her turn, each shaped into smoothness by the same ash, the same hand. No one complains. Pain is part of the leaving, the letting go of what clings to the body, what grows without being asked. There is no vanity here, but there is pride. Pride in endurance, in discipline, in having skin soft as river clay, free of the hair that catches sweat and soil. Smoothness is for the festival, for the dance, for standing before the fire with beads around your waist and the ancestors at your back. It is a sign of attention, that you have tended to yourself as you would to a loved one. When the scrubbing is finished, the elder wipes you down with baobab oil, infused with bark and crushed blossoms. Your skin drinks it like droughted land drinks rain. The fire crackles. A girl sings in the corner, a lullaby in a tongue that only the oldest women still fully speak. You recognize a few words: body, skin, wash, return. You do not need the rest to understand. You leave the hut later, the sun now high, the earth hot underfoot. Your limbs move differently, not lighter, but cleaner, quieter, as if something that was once wild has been calmed. You run your hand along your forearm. Smooth. The kind of smoothness that belongs not to fashion, but to ritual, to memory. You are Nock now. You walk among baked clay statues and ancestors who watch through smoke. Your skin is written with fire, erased with ash. You remove what grows wild so you can walk into ceremony as someone remade, not different, but prepared. The Nile flows black and steady just beyond the garden walls, its slow curve reflecting the shimmer of afternoon sun like beaten metal. You sit in the shade of a sycamore fig tree, the air around you rich with the scent of citrus leaves and distant incense. The stone beneath your feet is warm, the kind of warmth that lingers even after the sun slips behind the horizon. All around, the palace hums softly. Footsteps on mosaic, the rustle of linen robes, the faint clang of metalwork from a distant forge where bracelets and mirrors are cast. The Queen has ordered a procession in 3 days, and for that, you must be made smooth. You're in Meroe, a city of gold, of iron, of queens who ruled without need for kings. The women here are powerful, broad-shouldered, dark-skinned and adorned in layers of jewellery that clink with every movement. They wear their hair braided high, lined in beads or shaved close to the skull in geometric patterns, each line etched with intention. Their skin, always glistening, not with sweat, but with oil, with purpose. There is no part of the body that does not mean something. In a tiled room just off the inner courtyard, the preparation begins. You lie on a mat woven from river reeds, draped in cotton so fine it clings like breath. Beside you, an attendant kneels, her hands stained with the mixture she's been preparing since morning. She opens a clay bowl. Inside, goat fat, slow rendered and whipped into a thick cream, mixed with ground ivory dust and gold leaf. It glimmers, not from light, but from the weight of centuries. You do not flinch as she begins to apply it, working it into your skin from ankles to navel, across your arms and collarbones. It is warm from the sun, slick but dense, and smells of salt and wood smoke. Once applied, she begins the scraping, not with cloth, not with thread, but with a thin blade of polished copper, curved like the sickle moon. She holds it at an angle and draws it downward in slow, steady strokes. Hair lifts, oil slicks. Your skin peeks through, smoother with each pass. There is no sudden rip, no gasp of pain. This is not violence, it is art. In Meroe, to be smooth is not a matter of shame, it is a declaration. A clean body is a strong body, one worthy of oils, of pigment, of scent, one that can receive blessing and gaze alike. The warrior queens of the Kush, the Kandake, bore their bodies into battle, into negotiation, into legend. They led armies, yes, but they also anointed themselves with myrrh before appearing in court, had their underarms scraped with knives dipped in mint resin, removed every hair with reverence before stepping into their gold-threaded garments. You remember the tale of Amanirenas, the the queen who lost an eye in battle and kept her kingdom whole. Her portraits in the temple show no flaw, not in form, not in presence. Her legs bare and gleaming, her chest lifted, framed by layered necklaces, her skin unbroken by line or mark. You imagine her being prepared just as you are now, the blade sliding across her shin, her mind already on war. Your attendant moves to your underarms, then your back, wiping away the excess fat with a linen square soaked in lavender water. She does not speak. She doesn't need to. The rhythm of the scraping, the wiping, the oiling, it is a language older than speech. When she finishes, she pours a final stream of warmed oil, she mixed with saffron, down the length of your spine. It pulls at the base, then is rubbed in with firm, symmetrical hands. You sit up slowly. Your skin hums, not from pain, but from awakening. You feel each breeze more sharply now, each brush of linen more intimately. There is a clarity, a presence in your body that wasn't there before, as if something has been stripped away that was never really yours. The sun has dipped lower, and the garden outside has quieted. A servant brings you a mirror, bronze, smooth, slightly convex, and you study yourself within it. Not just your face, your arms, your legs, the skin beneath your navel. All of it has been rendered into its cleanest version. Not because hair was bad, but because smoothness is control. It is readiness. It is sovereignty. You are merotic now. Your skin bears the glint of metal and the scent of spice. Your body has been shaped with the tools of queens, prepared not to please but to claim. You're not erased by smoothness. You're made sharper by it, outlined. The hills roll like quiet breath around the villa, olive trees knotting the landscape in twisted lines, their shadows long and slow across stone paths. Far below, the Tyrrhenian Sea glints, not like fire, but like polished silver, heavy and still. You sit near a fountain carved in the shape of a lion's head, its mouth spitting a thin stream of water into a basin that echoes gently in the enclosed courtyard. The air smells of lavender, crushed herbs, old earth. Above you, linen awnings sway in rhythm with the late afternoon breeze. Somewhere inside, the sound of a harp drifts from an upper room, but out here, in the shade of the laurel trees, a ritual is unfolding. She kneels beside you, older, sleeves rolled, hands practiced. The vessel she carries is ceramic, burnished, warm from the sun. Inside, olive oil steeped with marjoram, lemon peel, and a few drops of aged wine. It's not for drinking, it's for preparing the skin. The Etruscans believed the body to be a boundary between spirit and world, and as such it had to be maintained, not masked but clarified. The oil is poured slowly over your arms, your thighs, your lower back. It glides across the surface and seeps into the skin with ease. You breathe in through your nose slowly. She begins with the creta pumicis, a piece of pumice stone porous and worn, the colour of driftwood. She wets it with warm water and draws it down the line of your shin. Not roughly, not softly, in strokes. Hair catches, then disappears. The skin reddens faintly but doesn't protest. You've done this before. Pumice is slower than a blade, more forgiving, but it demands attention. You feel every stroke. It smooths more than just hair. It removes the layer of dust and callus that daily life leaves behind. In the villas of the elite, smooth skin means discipline, means time, means luxury. Not all can afford the hours it takes. The Etruscans, merchants, sailors, dreamers of tombs and feasts, valued the body more than their Roman successors would. Not as instrument, not as vessel, but as mirror. A reflection of balance, of beauty tied to harmony. Men remove their body hair too, especially those of high status. In the frescoes that line burial chambers, men lie reclined beside women, their skin bare, glinting in lamplight. Hair has no place in these scenes. It is not part of the image of eternal elegance. The woman beside you reaches for a strigil next. Not sharp, not like Roman bronze, but a flatter, blunter curve of tin-plated copper. She scrapes the oil and loosened hair from your legs, your stomach, the small of your back. Each pull makes a soft sound, like dragging silk across a stone floor. The residue collects in a shallow bowl. It will be burned later, or buried near the vineyard. Nothing is left unattended, she says quietly, that this is how the priestesses prepare before entering the sanctuary, that even in the temples of Uni and Turan, goddesses of love and fate, no one arrives unwashed, uncombed or unpurged. To remove hair is to invite clarity, to bring the body into alignment with the sacred. Even if you don't believe in gods, you feel the truth in her hands. When she finishes scraping, she rinses your skin with wine-infused water. Then she dusts you with ground iris root, not to perfume, but to soothe. The scent is powdery, like memory. It clings faintly, rising only when you move. You remain still for a while, the sun sliding across your shoulders, the hum of insects steady behind the walls. You feel like marble, like the figures carved into tomb lids, poised, hairless, preserved. You think of the painted sarcophagi, men and women side by side reclining eternally, their faces serene, their bodies immaculate. This is how they wanted to be remembered. Not raw, not wild, but tended, framed. Like art, you are Etruscan now. Your limbs are shaped by stone and oil, your smoothness not just aesthetic, but ancestral. You've removed what is impermanent to get closer to what might remain. Not the hair, but the intention. Not the skin, but the self beneath it. Polished clean, the wind never stops. It dances low over the open grasslands, always moving, always watching, like a god that never tires of circling the same earth. You sit by a fire in a wide valley where there are no fences, only space and motion. The horses are tethered nearby, twitching their ears, the scent of sweat and leather rising gently from their coats. You can see the distant blur of other camps, a smear of pale felt tents against the brown-green sweep of the steppe. But here, in your own circle of warmth and smoke, the day is still, the embers crackle, the sky lowers, the woman across from you, wrapped in layers of wool dyed with onion skins and madder root, gestures for you to lift your arm. You do. She does not ask twice. She holds a clay pot, no lid, filled with a black paste that smells of fat and burned leaves. She dips her fingers in, then spreads the mixture across your skin. It is cold at first, but soon warms from the touch of her hands. It stings faintly, not like fire, but like nettle, a warning more than a punishment. You've seen her make the paste, soot from charred bone, lard from mutton fat, ash from dried goat dung, all ground with a stone and mixed until thick. She keeps it covered in rabbit skin, tied with string, marked with ochre symbols. She says it takes the hair, takes the heat, takes the old skin with it. You believe her. You've seen the smooth legs of older women, the bare underarms, the glistening skin before feast days. This is not about elegance. It's about precision, about order. The body must be ready before it enters the rituals of war, birth, hunt, or mourning. The Scythians are not like other peoples. You do not build cities. You build memory, in the shape of tumuli, in gold figurines buried beneath earth, in the feel of wind on clean skin before you ride. The Greeks who write about you imagine you wild and filthy, but they have never sat in one of your tents, never smelled the steam from a boiling pot of mare's milk, never watched a woman scrape soot from her thighs with a curved blade of polished stone while chanting softly under her breath. They do not understand that cleanliness here is power, not weakness, that smoothness is chosen, not for beauty but for freedom. Hair clings. It catches dirt, catches lice, catches cold. Smoothness means you move faster, sleep warmer, wake lighter. The paste has dried now. It forms a dark film across your forearms, the backs of your knees. The woman takes her blade. It is not sharp like iron, but dull and rounded like a deer's horn, rubbed smooth by years of use, and begins to scrape. The paste falls away in flakes along with the hair. Your skin is pink beneath it, alive, breathing. She murmurs praise, though it is not for you, not directly. It is for the act itself, the ritual done properly, the honouring of a cycle repeated for generations. Later she will braid your hair, the one kind of hair allowed to grow wild. She will tie talismans into the strands, bones and beads and polished seeds. You will mount your horse and ride across the plain, and no one will see what you have left behind. The hair, the soot, the layers that no longer belong, but you will feel it, in the way your thighs grip the saddle, in the way your arms swing freely. in the way your body sings without sound. You're Scythian now, born of wind and fire, painted with ash, scraped clean beneath the smoke-stained canopy of a tent that breathes with the earth. You do not remove your hair for beauty, you do it because the body must match the horse. Quick, unburdened, fierce. The corridor is quiet, save for the flutter of doves nesting high among the mosaic eaves. The air inside the villa is cool, shadowed by thick curtains dyed in deep blues and wine reds, pulled half open to let in the filtered sunlight of Constantinople's late morning. Outside, the world shifts with the sounds of distant street vendors, bronze church bells and sandals on stone. But here, in the private rooms of the domus, everything slows. The walls are painted with layered pigments, cracked in places where the plaster breathes. You step carefully across patterned tile, bare feet quiet, body swathed in linen. You are expected. The ritual is waiting. In a small chamber off the inner atrium, a woman in a veil and loose sleeves greets you without speaking. Her hands are already smeared with the paste she's made. Thick, white, chalky, with a faint scent of almond and vinegar. She gestures for you to sit on the wide marble slab at the centre of the room. It's worn smooth by use, slightly concave, with grooves running along its edge to catch water and oil. You lower yourself, robe falling away from your limbs. She begins at the shoulders, dabbing the paste in long, slow swipes. Her fingers are deliberate, practiced. The mixture is simple: crushed marble dust, goat's milk, vinegar, and a touch of beeswax. But ancient, handed down since before the old empire fell, when the Greeks still whispered to their statues and the Romans oiled their slaves for the arena. In Byzantium, beauty is no longer about excess. It is about sanctity. The body is a vessel now, a frame for humility, but that does not mean it should be left untended. The paste tightens as it dries, clinging to each hair like a second skin. It is not painful, not at first, but when she begins to rub, gently, rhythmically, with a cloth soaked in warm water and lemon rind, the hairs lift away, not ripped, not yanked, but coaxed, like dust from a reliquary. You breathe slowly. You watch the way her fingers move in spirals. Each circle loosens more hair, more skin, more silence. In the courts of Constantinople, under domes covered in gold leaf and holy smoke, the empresses are always smooth, but they do not say so. No one speaks openly of depilation. It is implied. It is assumed. It is part of the discipline of the inner body, the care that mirrors one's devotion to God. Smoothness is not indulgence. It is obedience to form. The saints carved in ivory and glass do not show hair. The icons painted in egg tempera depict skin as unbroken surface, lit from within, undefined by anything animal. You think of the nun you once met in the chapel garden, how she carried a small stone pumice wrapped in linen, how her sleeves always hid the softness of her arms. She said that the devil lives in what we ignore, that to be careless with the body is to abandon the soul. You did not argue. You understood. The woman moves to your thighs now, applying fresh paste. The marble dust gives the mixture weight. As it dries, you feel it crack, settle, cling. She uses a blunt tool carved from olive wood to begin scraping it away. The sound is delicate, a faint scratch, a song of removal. With each pass, your skin glows more brightly, not with colour, with absence. When it is done, she massages a thin layer of oil into your legs. It smells of myrrh and cypress, the kind of scent worn by scholars, not courtesans. She says nothing as she works. You are grateful. You did not come for chatter. You came to be brought back into order. You rise slowly. Your body feels lighter, though nothing has changed but hair. Your robe clings less now, falling with perfect grace. You pass the small bronze mirror without looking, but catch a glimpse in its curve. Pale limbs, clean angles, no interruptions. You resemble the mosaics. Almost. You are Byzantine now. You walk between incense and doctrine, between relic and routine. You remove hair not to seduce, not to display, but to maintain the geometry of holiness. To prepare yourself, not for others, but for the eternal gaze you cannot escape. The river speaks softly today, its surface unbroken save for the slow drift of leaves, the occasional ripple of a passing turtle, the trailing limbs of a willow bending toward the current. Beyond its banks the mounds rise, smooth and deliberate, each layered with earth and time, their forms shaped by ceremony, by memory. Between the mounds, Homes of wattle and daub rest in quiet circles, their thatched roofs damp with morning dew. You walk between them with bare feet, your ankles dusted with red clay, your hair braided and tied back. Today is a day of tending. Today, the body must be brought into order. In one of the larger homes, where pottery is stacked near the hearth and herbs hang from every beam, a woman waits. She stirs a bowl of pale grey paste, her fingers moving slow, deliberate, like someone kneading meaning into dough. She looks up when you enter but does not speak. You've done this before. You sit on the woven mat beside her, lay your legs out before you, and let your arms fall to your sides. The fire crackles, its smoke trailing upward and out through the hole in the roof. Everything smells of cedar and damp earth and salt. She begins with a cloth, rough, soaked in warm river water. She scrubs your arms with it, removing the layer of soil and skin and smoke that clings from days spent walking, working, weaving. Then she dips her fingers into the paste. It's made from fine river clay, mixed with ash from burnt corn husks, animal fat, and a pinch of powdered sassafras root. She rubs it into your skin, smoothing it in long strokes from elbow to wrist, then thigh to knee. The mixture cools the body, draws out heat, calms the pulse, but it also grips. The longer it sits, the more it tightens, hardens, anchors itself around each hair like a net of fine roots. There are no razors here, not of copper, not of stone, not of bone. Hair is not removed with slicing but with lifting, scraped gently from the skin with a curved piece of turtle shell. The edge is blunt, honed only by use. When the clay has dried enough to flake beneath her fingers, she begins. Slowly, carefully. The shell pulls the clay away, and with it, the hair. The skin beneath is flushed but clean. No bleeding, no tearing, just absence, just softness. In this culture, hair is not a thing of shame. It is a thing of purpose. You keep it on your head, long, braided, ornamented with beads or feathers. Sometimes men shape it into roaches or topknots, stiffened with bear grease. But elsewhere, arms, legs, even underarms, smoothness is respected. It means readiness. It means preparation for ceremony, for dance, for vision. Before great gatherings, before marriage, before fasting, the body is stripped of what it does not need. It is not about modesty, nor about beauty. It is about alignment between self and spirit, between body and land. You remember your mother scrubbing your legs with river sand when you were too young to walk far, pressing her palm to your skin and saying, "Feel this. This is how the earth touches back." You did not understand then, but you do now. The woman works without rush. She moves to your underarms, then your shoulders, then your back. You lie down on the mat, and the woven rushes beneath you crackle faintly as your weight settles into them. The fire beside you burns low, red coals shifting, casting uneven light across the woman's face as she scrapes away the clay from the slope of your shoulder. Her hands are steady, almost ceremonial, as if the act itself is a kind of prayer, as if each motion folds the body deeper into the rhythm of the world. She works without words, and you do not offer any. Here, silence is not absence. It is structure. It is part of the ritual. When she moves to your legs again, she pauses to apply a fresh layer. This one is darker, mixed with finely ground charred river reeds. It has a different feel, grittier, more abrasive. It's used only for the coarser hair, the hair that resists. You close your eyes as she smooths it down your shin, then the curve of your calf. You feel the coolness, the tug of the clay beginning to dry, the tightening, the slight sting at the edges where the skin is thinner. But you do not flinch. This pain is honest, useful. Like pulling thorns from a foot after a long walk, it hurts, but the wound makes way for healing. When it is scraped away, the skin beneath glows a faint copper pink, a little raw, a little new. She rubs a balm into it, bare fat infused with crushed green walnut shells, boiled and filtered until thick and sweet-smelling. It settles the sting. It seals the body. You exhale deeply and let your limbs rest, heavy and slow, against the floor. Around you, the room shifts as heat rises and falls. A child giggles somewhere outside. A man sings a line of a hunting song. Someone drops a pot and curses, But in here, time has stopped. You feel as though your body has returned to an earlier version of itself. Quieter, more exact, the distractions stripped away. She touches your forehead last, not with clay, just water, a single drop, dabbed onto your brow with 2 fingers. You do not ask why, she does not say, but you feel it sink in. Among the Mississippian peoples there are stories carved into shells and woven into mats. Stories of spirits who walk hairless through the world, spirits who only visit those who have scrubbed the dust of the ordinary from their skin. The body, when clean, is not just pure, it is visible, it is legible, it can be read by ancestors and gods alike, and so the rituals persist. Not out of vanity, but because there is meaning in what is removed and what is allowed to remain. You rise now, skin still damp, still tingling from the clay and the blade and the balm. You do not yet put on your robe. The air kisses your bare limbs. It does not feel like exposure. It feels like return. You walk to the door of the home and look out over the mounds beyond, where the sky is darkened to a deep violet and smoke trails like lines drawn across the heavens. You are Mississippian now. You walk with fire and clay in your paws. You have scraped the old layer from your limbs and fed it to the earth. You carry nothing extra, nothing that clings. You're not perfect, but you are prepared. The reindeer are restless in the cold. You hear them shifting beyond the hide-flap entrance of the Goatee, soft hooves stamping snow, antlers scraping gently against one another in quiet complaint. The wind has picked up again, not violently, just constant, and it moves through the birch forest outside with a sound like breath held too long and let out too slow. You are inside, wrapped in layers, near the centre hearth, where the fire burns low and steady. Smoke rises in a thin ribbon through the open vent at the peak of the roof, and the walls sweat with its warmth. Your skin is dry, cracked in places. Beneath your tunic the chill clings to the few patches of exposed flesh, and the fine, soft hairs that winter refuses to let go of. You kneel beside your aunt, who sharpens a knife slowly across a stone. It's small, her skinning knife, honed from iron and used more often on fish and pelts than on people. But today, it's for you. Not to cut, but to scrape. A blade does not always need to be sharp to be useful. You stretch your legs out from under the fur covering, exposing them to the fire and the room's damp heat. She eyes them, then nods. You are old enough now. The Sami do not speak often of grooming, at least not aloud, not in words. It is assumed, like listening to wind or tying snowshoes tight. You have watched your grandmother rub her legs with snow until they flushed red, then drag a carved reindeer bone comb down their length until the hairs came with it. You have seen your mother melt lard in a tin pot, let it cool, then smear it across her underarms, scraping it away moments later with the back of a knife or the edge of a broken shell. There is no word for this ritual in the language of songs, but it exists in gesture, passed hand to hand. Your aunt dips her fingers into a jar of seal oil and spreads it thin across your shin. The smell is thick, sour, earthy, but it softens the skin, prepares it. She takes the knife, turns the edge sideways and begins. The strokes are firm, long. They do not hurt, but they remind you that your body is not untouched. Hair lifts, bits of ash and old sweat collect against the blade. She wipes it on a cloth and goes again. She says nothing as she works. In these latitudes, smooth skin is not a decoration. It is a choice, practical, ritual, seasonal. In summer, when water runs freely and gatherings fill the valleys, the women often scrape themselves clean before dances, before shared meals, before speaking to the spirits of the stones and rivers. In winter, they do it to keep the layers of skin fresh, to reduce lice and irritation under tight furs, and always, always, to remind the self that the body is not to be forgotten beneath the burden of survival. She moves now to your underarms, mutters something about the coarse hairs there, then rubs them with snow fetched in a cloth. The shock of it wakes you more than the fire does. She laughs, not kindly but not cruelly either, and gets back to work. The scraping there is shorter, more careful, but she's done in minutes. When your limbs are clean, she rubs them with warm lard mixed with juniper ash. It seals the skin, smells of smoke and sap. Her hands are rough, but gentle in the way of someone who's tended fire every day of her life. You sit there, skin shining faintly in the low glow. your breath soft and shallow. You remember a story your brother told once, of a reindeer goddess who travelled between the worlds, her body slick as ice, her face always hidden. They said she left no trace in snow because her skin was too smooth to hold the cold. You wonder if she too was scraped clean by an elder's hand, if she once sat as you sit now before the wind carried her away. You are Sammy now. You wear the silence of the tundra on your skin, burn the sting of snow beneath your arms. Your body is scraped not for beauty, not for others, but for warmth, for memory, for the way a smooth car feels beneath layers of woven wool and animal hide. And when you walk out into the white morning, your footsteps muffled, your limbs braced for the bite of the wind, you do so with skin that breathes easier, lighter, ready. The sun is not yet high, but already the clay walls of the compound are warm to the touch. The earth beneath your feet is dark red, hard-packed, alive with the scent of rain that fell sometime in the night. You woke early, not to the rooster, but to the faint clink of iron pots being pulled from their resting places, to the scrape of grinding stones, to the quiet rhythm of a broom across the courtyard. Today is not a market day. Today is not a feast, but still the women gather. There is millet to pound, meat to prepare, oil to press, and before that, before hands can touch food, before heads are wrapped in cloth, there is cleansing. You sit on a small stool beside the cookhouse, its walls darkened by years of fire and smoke. The ashes from the hearth have been set aside, sifted into a basin of warm water that now rests between your feet. You see the flecks swirling slowly at the surface, dancing in the sunlight that breaks through the reed roof. The woman beside you, older, not your mother, but close enough, presses your shoulder gently. You remove your wrapper, fold it at your side. Your skin is bare, your legs are dusty, your underarms smell faintly of salt and heat. She says nothing. She doesn't need to. You came here to be scraped. She begins with the ash water. With her hand, she pours it over your legs, your thighs, the soft slope of your lower back. It is warm, but not soothing. The alkali in the ash bites a little. Not pain, just warning. This is not a bath. This is a preparation. From a cloth pouch she removes a blade. Flat, thin, its edge gleaming despite being honed not by stone but against clay. It is not ceremonial, it is not decorative, but it is clean, and it is sharp. She stretches your skin tight and begins to scrape. The strokes are short, downward, efficient. Hair lifts easily, dragged away with the lather of the ash water, which thickens as she works. The blade catches no blood. She knows the angle. You've seen her do it 100 times. On herself, on your aunts, once even on your grandfather before a burial. It is done for purity, for ritual, for the self. In the Mandi kingdoms, in Songhai courts and Yoruba shrines, across the homes built from mud, brick and timber, this is a private rite. There are no edicts about body hair, no declarations, but tradition whispers. Before you cook, you clean. Before you marry, you scrub. Before you grieve, you scrape. The body is not neutral here. It is marked by what it carries, dust, memory, hair, and what it chooses to shed. A girl nearby begins to sing softly while she prepares more ash. The song is old, a women's song passed through mouths and mortar bowls. It speaks of skin like river stones, of girls growing into wives, of boys noticing. You don't sing with her, but you listen. The rhythm of the blade matches the beat. You are becoming smoother, and not just in body. The woman moves to your underarms, your calves, even the back of your neck. Hair here is not shameful, but its absence speaks of readiness. You do not shave to hide, you shave to begin, to step forward, to enter the next moment with nothing clinging to you. You remember your cousin the night before her wedding, how she stood in the moonlight, her skin still gleaming from the same blade now touching yours, her smile unreadable. When it is done, she pours clean water over your skin, catching the runoff in a bowl that will be poured onto the earth, not into the drain, not into the bush. Hair and ash must be returned with care. You dry yourself with cloth soaked in palm oil and ground kola. The skin darkens slightly, glows. You stand now, not lighter, but more defined, as though something beneath the dust has been revealed. Your wrapper is tied again around your waist. The kitchen fire has begun to crackle, and someone calls for help with the pounding. You are West African now. You carry mortar rhythms in your arms and ash water on your skin. You do not fear hair, but you know when it must go. You do not speak of smoothness, but you wear it like a woven thread between duty and identity. The wind moves through the heather with a voice like breath caught on teeth, cold, constant, and whispering something older than language. You are seated near the fire pit of a roundhouse, the smoke from damp peat clinging to your tunic and hair, your legs pulled beneath you as the flame dances in uneven shapes across the woven walls. Above you, the thatch rustles gently, shifting with the winter air that slips through the smoke hole like a curious spirit. Outside, the day is grey and slow. Inside, it is time to prepare. She sits across from you, the elder woman with the split tooth and wide hands, stirring a pot of rendered tallow thickened with ground bark and dried moss. She's been heating it over low flame since before first light, whispering charms as she stirred, keeping the texture from splitting. Now, the mixture is ready, dark, fragrant, sticky. She dips her fingers into it and raises one brow toward you. You nod. Among the Britons, hair is not always an enemy, but it is watched, managed, shaped. The warriors grow it long on their heads and faces, wild and twisted, often stained with blue from woad. But for women, smoothness is more complicated. There are moments when it is expected, for weddings, rites of adulthood, burial. Not always, but enough that the ritual lives, passed through winters and seasons of hunger and sowing. There are no razors. Metal is precious. But where metal fails, ingenuity steps in. She applies the tallow paste to your legs, working it into the skin with the flat of a boar-bone comb. You feel the warmth sink into your pores, the oil binding to hair. When it begins to cool, she presses a strip of cloth against it, linen softened by time and stained faintly with herb smoke. She waits, just long enough. Then she pulls. It is not as sudden as wax, but it is sharp, and it takes the hair with it. You hiss, just once. She laughs. Not unkindly. This is expected. She tells you that her mother used to do this with pine resin, but the new mixture is better, softer, less cruel to the skin. Some girls use rough stones, rubbing until the hair wears away like bark stripped from a branch. Others pluck with thin threads wound between wooden pins. The wealthier women, those with ties to the southern traders, sometimes receive bronze blades from across the sea, flat and heavy, used not to shave but to scrape. You've never held one. The ritual continues. She works from ankle to hip, then arms, then under your chin, her fingers never faltering. She hums softly now, a tune not for you, but for the ancestors who watch every act of care, every removal of what is unnecessary. She says that smooth skin lets spirits recognize you, that hair confuses the eyes of the dead, that in the next world you must be as you were born, bare, oiled, free of burden. You feel the blade of belief more than the pain of cloth. After the final strip is lifted and the last patch of skin wiped with wool soaked in mead and sage, she rubs a thick balm into your thighs. It smells of oak ash and sheep's milk, tinged with something sharp you can't name. The cold air moves through the roundhouse more freely now, but your skin holds its warmth. You remember seeing the chalk figures carved into the hills, white lines of gods and ancestors etched into earth. Their bodies are smooth, abstract, unbroken. You wonder if they too were scraped clean with bone and cloth before being drawn into the soil. If their stories live not just in shape, but in touch. You stand carefully. The fire crackles low. Your limbs feel new, not fragile but sharpened, as if your skin remembers itself better this way, unadorned, unburdened. The woman wraps a wool cloak around your shoulders and nods once. You nod back. Nothing more needs to be said. You are Briton now. You walk through mist and myth. Your body tended not for display but for ritual, for passage. Your smoothness is not performance. It is protection. Memory. It is the way the body speaks without voice. You kneel beside a shallow basin carved from dark stone, its surface shimmering with fresh rainwater collected in the night. The silk curtains drift softly in the summer breeze, their edges trailing like brushstrokes across the lacquered floor. Outside, the city is stirring. A low murmur of market stalls opening, copper bells tinkling from mule harnesses, the wet slap of sandals against cobbled alleys still glistening from last night's storm. But here, within the private chambers of a wealthy scholar's house, The world is still, contained, deliberate. She prepares the mixture carefully, as if composing a poem. Small spoonfuls of honey, cooled and thickened until they drag, mixed with powdered pearl and the ash of plum twigs. She heats it in a brass bowl over a bed of coals, stirring gently with a jade-handled wand. You watch the liquid thicken, the colour deepen from pale gold to bronze. You have not spoken since you entered. That is the rule. You speak only after your skin is clean. This is not a public act. It is private, but not hidden. The women of Chang'an, courtesans, daughters of ministers, poets, dancers, all undergo this ritual. Not daily, not even weekly, but when the season shifts, when a letter arrives, when the moon prepares to watch. The Tang elite do not strive for perfection, they strive for harmony, for the proper balance between gesture and form, fabric and flesh, sound and silence. Hair that grows unbidden interrupts the rhythm. It must be coaxed away. She applies the paste with her fingers, slow, spiralling motions along your arms and thighs, tracing lines that feel like calligraphy. You close your eyes. The scent rises. Sweet, smoky, faintly herbal. It is warm without burning, heavy without pain. When she finishes, she places thin strips of silk over each section. They are barely touched with oil, just enough to hold. Then she presses gently and waits. The pause is part of it. A moment to breathe, to anticipate. Then, the pull. Not violent, but certain. The silk lifts, and the hair is gone with it. Your skin flushes, but no blood rises, only colour, like the first stroke of cinnabar on white rice paper. You inhale slowly. Exhale. She does it again. You think of court women gliding through the peony gardens, their sleeves so long they sweep the ground, their bodies impossibly smooth beneath embroidered robes. You've heard they coat their arms in a second layer of powder after hair removal, then dust them with crushed magnolia petals. The result is a kind of unreality, softness that belongs more to silk than to flesh. But it's not for men, it's not even for beauty, it is for self-control, for discipline. The Tang dynasty breathes refinement in architecture, in verse, in the body. Even the famed poet Li Bai once described a woman's skin as moonlight on polished snow, unmarred by shadow or wind. You once thought it was exaggeration. Now you know it is ritual. There is no room for accident in that kind of clarity. The woman finishes the sugaring. Then she cleanses you with a cloth soaked in cold rice water and powdered jade. It tightens the skin, calms it. She dries you with silk, brushes a final line of cooling camphor along your neck and underarms. Then, without asking, she kneels behind you and threads your upper lip with an impossibly fine loop of twisted black silk. The thread snaps back with each pass, sharp, precise, humming with tension, pulling the finest hairs free with a motion as old as ink itself. When it is done, she steps back, bows. The basin is emptied. The paste is discarded into the fire. You rise slowly, aware of every line of your body, of how the silk clings differently now to the backs of your knees, to your arms, to the slope of your waist. You do not check a mirror, you do not need to, you know, you are Tang now. You walk the scroll-lined halls of Chang'an with skin that speaks without sound. You remove hair not to seduce, not to erase, but to clarify, to bring the body into rhythm with the mind. You're a stroke of ink on a page already rich with silence, and the ritual, like poetry, needs no explanation, only presence. The city of Baghdad is a maze of light and scent and shifting cloth, and this morning it breathes like a lion, slow, regal, heavy with heat. You make your way through the streets beneath a canopy of woven palm leaves strung between buildings, the sun filtered into slats across the worn bricks beneath your feet. Incense curls from doorways, water splashes in fountains. Somewhere, a muezzin calls the faithful to prayer, his voice rolling out across rooftops and alleys like the opening line of a story. But you are not going to prayer, you are going to the hammam. Inside, the bathhouse is dim, warm, womb-like. Steam glistens on the mosaic walls, where vines and stars twine in endless geometric patterns. You disrobe in silence, body already slick from the city's heat, and step into the cleansing chamber where bowls of perfumed water wait, and the women who run the bath move without speaking unless absolutely necessary. Their hands say enough. You sit on the polished stone, and the attendant kneels beside you with a brass bowl filled with warm sea salt brine. The scent is sharp: lemon peel, salt, and a whisper of myrrh. She begins by pouring it over your arms, your chest, your thighs. It stings where your skin is dry, where the heat has cracked you, but you welcome it. This is not luxury. This is purification. Then comes the blade. Not a razor, not in the modern sense, but a flat, gleaming implement with a curved edge, a musa, forged of steel so fine it hums faintly against stone. It is not aggressive. It glides. It caresses and removes. The woman holds your arm steady, pulls the skin taut, and begins. Hair peels away as if lifted by wind. You exhale. You look down and see yourself changing with each pass. Smoother, cleaner, more exact. This is not vanity. This is law. The Hadith speak of cleanliness as half of faith. Harun al-Rashid himself, the caliph in his gilded palace by the Tigris, is known to bathe daily, to have his body scraped and perfumed before judgment, before poetry, before prayer. His concubines are said to be smooth as calligraphy, their skin anointed with ambergris and saffron after every removal. But it is not only the court that obeys this rhythm, the common women too, those who carry baskets through the market, those who knead bread at dawn. They scrape their legs, their underarms, their arms, their intimate parts, following rules older than conquest, deeper than scripture. The woman working on you says nothing, but her rhythm is like recitation: salt, water, blade, wipe, oil, scrape. You begin to memorize it. She rubs crushed sandalwood into your skin afterward, the powder fine and soft, smelling of shade and temples. You feel yourself settling into the heat, into the glow of this place where flesh becomes clean not for display but for obedience. Hair, here, is part of the body's chaos. It grows on its own schedule. It defies discipline, and so it is removed, not in shame, but in intention. There is no debate. You're not asked whether you prefer yourself this way. You're reminded. This is how it must be. She moves now to your face, threading your upper lip and brow, with a loop of silk twisted in a rapid, practiced flick. The sting is sharp, but brief. She works by touch, not sight. You sit still, breathing through the discomfort, feeling more revealed with each pull. When the ritual ends, she presses a cloth against your limbs, soaked in rosewater and musk, and then helps you stand. You move differently now, not lighter, exactly, but less crowded, as though your skin has made space for spirit. You are abased now. You walk through the city's heat with a body shaped by steel and salt and silence. Your limbs carry no excess. You glide. You burn with devotion, not to beauty, but to symmetry, to cleanliness, to the idea that what grows uninvited can be removed with grace. The snow is not clean here. It is grey with ash and soot from long-burning hearths, streaked with wind-blown grit from the coast, packed hard by boots and bones dragged across it for generations. You are perched on a stone ledge just outside the longhouse, where the smoke from the central fire drifts through the roof's narrow vent, and leaves its trail along the beams like a ghost that's forgotten how to leave. Your breath fogs the air in soft bursts. It is morning, and your limbs are stiff with cold. Today, you will scrape. Not because of ceremony, not because of beauty, but because the body must be made ready for another winter. Inside, the others prepare smoked fish, stitch hides, soften boots with seal fat, but this is your task. You sit on a fur half wrapped in a pelt and unwrap the tools. A sharp-edged flint, a handful of rendered fat hardened with beeswax and pine ash, a length of reindeer sinew knotted at one end. The flint is not elegant. It is chipped, rudely, carefully, the edge catching light with a shimmer that promises it will cut only what you wish it to. You smear the wax fat along your legs, your underarms, even your chin. The fat glows golden in the morning light, thick with the scent of smoke and soil. You rub it in slowly, coaxing it into your pores. It stiffens the hair, makes it stand, then comes the blade. The first scrape is cautious. You drag the flint along the surface of your skin, angled just so, lifting not only hair but old skin, ash, the faint traces of salt left from too many nights beside the fire. It peels away in tiny ribbons like sloughed bark from wet wood. There is no sudden sting. only the dull drag of stone. You scrape again, harder. Hair lifts, the skin beneath is red but not bleeding. In this world, before bronze, before kingdom, before map, the body is both weapon and burden. You cannot afford to carry what is unnecessary. Hair catches lice. It holds moisture. It clings to dirt. And though your people do not name the ritual, do not paint gods into it, there is something reverent in the way your grandmother taught you to do this. Slowly, repeating it at the turn of the season. After first snow, before first thaw. You reach for the sinew now, tying it around your fingers in a loop. You've watched others thread this way, not for beauty, but to remove what flint cannot reach. The small hairs on the face, the ones that grow too close to the ear, the upper lip. You twist the sinew quickly, rhythmically. Pull, pull, pull. The hairs snap free, your eyes water, but your face clears. You do not know the word ritual. You do not say grooming, but you know the difference between skin that is tended and skin that is forgotten. The women who scrape and rub and oil their bodies in silence do not talk of why. They only do, and in the long months of cold, when survival is stitched into every movement, it is the body that betrays first. Best to strip it down, soften it, relearn it. You finish by rubbing snow against your arms, pressing the cold into the red flesh where the hairs once lived. Then you sit, breathing, letting the skin dry in the wind. It stings, but it also sings, the way carved wood sings when shaped just right. You think of a girl buried last spring, wrapped in furs, her body painted in ochre, her legs gleaming smooth beneath the markings. You think of her still, not as dead, but as preserved. Remembered, the flint that shaped her still warm in the hand of the elder who did the scraping. Nothing in this life is wasted. Not the hair, not the blade, not even the silence. You are prehistoric now. You carry no mirrors, you know no calendar, but your hands know the rhythm of the stone. Your skin bears the memory of ash and oil and frost. You remove not to adorn, but to endure, to bring your body into alignment with the cold and the smoke and the dark. The river moves slowly here, silent and wide, its banks edged with reeds and the rust-coloured soil that stains every stone, every hand, every ankle that touches it. The sun rises early over Mohenjo-daro, lighting the stepped wells and mud-brick homes in soft gold before the heat arrives in earnest. You walk barefoot through narrow alleys just beginning to wake, the air filled with the scent of water and the faint metallic tang of fire left smouldering from the night. In this city of order and clay, even the body is a matter of alignment, of symmetry, of intention, of quiet removal. You step inside the bathing room. Its walls are plastered smooth, the bricks beneath still damp from the water poured over them daily. A bowl of heated oil sits near the stone bench, sesame, dark and fragrant, thickened with soot scraped from the kilns that burn along the western wall of the city. The mixture is warm but not scalding. A girl dips her fingers into it and gestures for you to raise your arm. You've done this many times. You know what comes next. The soot oil mixture is not just for skin. It binds to hair, darkens it, softens the root. The girl applies it with care, smoothing it over your arms, down your calves, along the soft skin just beneath your ribs. Then she takes a loop of copper wire, pulled from a discarded amulet perhaps, or traded from the metal workers in the southern quarter, and begins the slow work of threading. She wraps the wire around her fingers and begins to twist. Fast, slow, fast again, catching the hair and pulling it free. There is no ripping, just tension, release, tension, release. In the Indus Valley, where drains run beneath every house and pottery shards still remember the hands that shaped them, cleanliness is not spoken of as virtue. It simply is, as essential as water, as precise as the carvings etched into every seal. Hair that grows where it should not. It is not shamed, but it is corrected. Quietly, efficiently, repeatedly. The girl hums as she works. The song is not devotional. It is practical. Attuned to measure time, to settle nerves, to hold the rhythm of motion. You listen to the click of the wire, the small intake of breath each time a patch clears, the sound of oil being spread again in smooth practice strokes. You think of the priest king statue, the one with the hooded eyes and the faint curl of beard. His arms are bare, smooth. No hair is carved into the stone. You wonder who tended his body, what ritual surrounded the statue before it was placed in that bath-like basin. You wonder if smoothness was ever a mark of rank here, or simply a shared silence, something all carried, like the weight of water on the back. The girl works down your shins, scraping away oil and hair with a flat shard of fired clay. It is not sharp, but it does its job. The skin beneath is flushed, the soot now mixed with sweat, and the faint pink of rubbed flesh. She wipes it all away with cloth dipped in cooling turmeric water. You smell earth, root, a trace of metal. She finishes with your brow, threading the fine hairs above your eyes until the arch is clean. You do not flinch. Pain is not the point. Precision is. When she is done, she steps back, placing the wire and cloth into a small jar. You dress again, not in new robes, but in the ones you wore in. But now they fall differently, the linen sliding smoothly over your legs, your hips, your arms. The weight is the same, but your skin reads it differently. Outside, the city grows louder, clay carts creak past, a boy calls out measurements for grain, women crouch beside river-fed channels, washing cloth with ash and lime. But you linger a moment in the cool shade of the wall, feeling your body beneath your robe, knowing it has been readjusted, not reshaped, not remade, but returned to stillness. You are Indus now. You walk through grid-lined streets with copper beneath your skin and soot worked into your pores. You do not seek perfection, but you know balance. You carry smoothness not as decoration, but as habit, one layer of silence among many. The air here is thick with the scent of stone, not dust but wet basalt, fresh from morning rain that has slipped down temple steps and pooled in the hollows of carved altars. Overhead, the clouds gather low and dark, bellies swollen with promise, trailing across the smoking peaks of Popocatépetl and Iztaccíhuatl like veils tugged by invisible hands. You move quietly through the courtyards of the city, feet bare against carved flagstones that still hold the warmth of yesterday's fire offerings. This place is not Aztec, not yet. It is older, Teotihuacan, place of the gods, and here, even the body must answer to stone. You follow the priestess through the narrow passage beside the temple of Quetzalcoatl, where serpent heads stare with wide eyes and jaws held forever open. She does not look back, but you know where you are meant to step. Between the painted walls, across the mosaic floor where turquoise once gleamed, you enter a chamber where obsidian tools are laid out with care, gleaming black and wet in shallow bowls of water. No fire here, only stone and steam and hands that know. She begins by grinding the copal, tree resin, pale and golden, crushed into powder and mixed with water until it thickens like oil. She smears it along your arms, your thighs, the back of your neck, letting it seep into your skin. It smells of smoke and sweetness, of sacred spaces. It is not for scent, it is for grip. The resin clings to hair and draws it upright, ready. Then comes the blade. Obsidian, sharp as truth. A sliver of volcanic glass honed to a wicked edge, thinner than any copper or bronze. She holds it like a feather, but you know its power. It was used to flay sacrifices, to open the chest, to speak the god's language in blood. But today, it is for gentler work. She places her hand flat on your calf, pulls the skin tight, and scrapes. The hairs lift cleanly, drawn away with the resin. The blade sings against your flesh, not a sound, but a sensation. A hum through muscle and bone. Among your people, this practice is not gendered. Priests remove their hair before entering sacred space. Dancers smooth their limbs before stepping into the plaza. Courtesans tend their skin with lime and clay. Even warriors scrape themselves clean before battle. Not for intimidation, but for clarity. The gods deserve to see what they have made, unobstructed, and the body, when smoothed of its wildness, is better able to carry intention. She scrapes in long lines, from ankle to thigh, from wrist to shoulder, then over your underarms, where the resin burns slightly and your breath catches. She says nothing, only moves with the precision of someone taught by generations. When the blade dulls, she replaces it, another chip of glass plucked from the water, no larger than a fingernail. You think of the murals on the temple walls, figures painted in red and ochre, their limbs clean and bright, their faces marked but never marred. You remember a ceremony when you were younger, watching a boy's head shaved smooth before he was taken up the steps to speak for the maze god. The ritual wasn't explained. It didn't need to be. The body had to match the offering. Now she tends your face, the fine hairs at your cheeks and brow. She does not thread them. Instead, she uses a paste of lime and ash, rubbed on with cotton and left to harden. When she peels it away, the sting is sharp, like memory, but the skin beneath is new, untouched. Ready. She finishes by dusting your skin with ground charcoal mixed with flower pollen, a gesture both cosmetic and sacred. It keeps the sun from burning, it marks you as prepared. You rise slowly, the chamber is still warm with your breath. You are bare, but not exposed. You are smooth, but not weakened. You feel as if you have shed not just hair, but every layer of noise the world has placed upon you. Outside, the rain has begun to fall, slow and soft, hissing where it touches stone. You are Mesoamerican now, born of lava and blood and silence. Your body has been shaped by obsidian and devotion, cleansed not for the eye of another, but for the voice of the divine. You do not hide, you reveal, and in the wet hush of the sacred city where gods once walked, the story, sharpened, scraped, and soothed with rain, continues still. The sea is never silent here. Even from the highest terraces of Knossos, where the wind carries the scent of crushed herbs and lime-washed walls shimmer under the early sun, you can hear the waves folding and breaking against the shore far below. The palace wakes slowly, sandals on tiled steps, laughter behind reed curtains, amphory shifted on mosaic floors. But your path is quiet, inward, through columns painted red, past frescoes of dolphins and bull leapers. You enter a courtyard where light filters through vines and the air tastes of salt and rosewater. The woman waiting for you wears a robe dyed in rare blue, a sign that this is not a casual rite, but one of lineage, preparation, and poise. She gestures for you to sit on a low stone bench. Around you are basins of milk, pots sealed with wax, bowls of crushed minerals and oils. She moves silently, like a figure from one of the wall paintings, her hands sure, her purpose clear. This is no temple, and yet the ritual is sacred. She begins by washing your skin with warm goat milk, fresh, still faintly sweet, and mixed with thyme and barley husk. It lathers slightly as she rubs it into your arms, your legs, the backs of your knees. The milk loosens the skin, softens the hair. Then she applies a paste, thick and glimmering, made from beeswax, powdered goldstone, and resin from the trees that grow only on the southern cliffs. It spreads with warmth, clings with weight. It smells of sunlight trapped in honey. You do not flinch when she presses linen strips to the paste and waits. She watches the shadows of leaves shift on your bare shoulders. Then, without warning, she pulls. It is quick, a rush of warmth, a flare of breath caught in your throat, and then it's gone. The hair, the resin, the moment. She wipes the area with a damp cloth, applies a balm of olive oil and poppy, and moves on. Each strip is pulled with the precision of a dancer. This is not punishment. This is refinement. Among the Minoans, appearance is not excess. It is order, harmony. Men oil their limbs and curl their hair. Women bare their breasts in open-fronted dresses and adorn their skin with patterns of blue and red. But beneath the colour, beneath the metal and linen, the body must be smooth, for dancers, for rituals, for the high priestesses who step barefoot through fire and wine. You recall watching a girl of your own age leap a bull in the central court, her skin shining like carved marble, no hair to blur the curve of muscle, no shadow to distract from the line of movement. They said she'd been waxed in this very courtyard, by the same woman, with the same paste, under the same vine canopy. You remember the gasp of the crowd as she landed, not for the risk, but for the elegance. Now the woman moves to your arms, to your belly, to the small, tender space at the base of your spine. Her hands are neither rough nor apologetic. They know the body is not a thing to tame, but to reveal. Smoothness is not weakness here. It is strength, a sign that you're not ruled by what the body grows, but by what you choose to show. She finishes by brushing a mixture of saffron and finely ground lapis lazuli across your skin. Not makeup, not exactly, but a polish. The body, newly smooth, glows faintly in the dappled light. Your robe, when returned to your shoulders, slides like water. It does not catch. You are Minoan now. You walk among frescoes and ritual cups, beneath painted griffins and double axes. Your limbs carry no hair, no hesitation. You're not preparing for a god. You're becoming one, at least for a moment, in the eyes of those who watch, in the eyes of yourself. The river glows amber beneath the late afternoon sun, its surface broken only by papyrus boats drifting slowly past the gardens of Alexandria. The palace behind you is quiet now, the courtiers resting, the scribes hunched over scrolls in shaded alcoves, the hush of late summer heat pressing down over marble columns and jasmine vines. You've left the cool halls for the servants' courtyard, where the real work of tending begins, and where the body, ever watched, is stripped back to its beginning. You sit on a stool carved from a single piece of sycamore wood, its legs uneven, worn smooth by decades of use. A brazier burns nearby, coals glowing beneath a clay bowl where a strange golden paste bubbles and darkens. A mixture of sugar, lemon and water boiled down into something sticky, ancient, purposeful. This is not the luxury of Cleopatra's bath. This is older, earthier, more constant. A method passed from mother to daughter long before the name of the queen became legend, long before Alexandria was a city of philosophers and marble lions. The woman tending the paste tests its readiness by pressing a finger into it and pulling it away in a thread. She nods once, and you lean back. She begins with a fine layer of clay, mixed with crushed firestone and silt from the Nile. It exfoliates the skin, draws out heat, and raises the fine hairs, preparing them for what's to come. The clay is cool at first, but dries in the air, tightening until your skin feels wrapped in paper. She scrapes it off with a curved copper blade, one edge dulled by repetition, the other catching just enough to leave your skin flushed and ready. Then comes the sugaring. She works quickly, pinching off a piece of the warm paste and pressing it into your arm with the heel of her palm. She pulls it back sharply, against the grain, always against, and the hair lifts away. The sting is sharp but fleeting. Already your skin feels lighter. She repeats the process over your legs, your thighs, your belly. Each movement is rhythmic, as though following a pattern in music or speech. You breathe through it. You don't flinch. This is not new. In the Egypt of the Ptolemies, body hair is a mark of disorder. The elite pluck their brows with bronze tweezers, shave their heads to better fit elaborate wigs, strip their limbs clean for oil and perfume. But the poor do it too, with mud, with honey, with blades fashioned from sharpened shells. The smooth body is not a fashion here. It is expectation. A body must be clean to approach the gods. A body must be smooth to survive the heat. A body must not interrupt the flow of linen with roughness or shadow. You remember once hearing a physician at the temple say that hair blocks the spirit's path along the skin, that the soul flows better over smooth flesh, uninterrupted. You did not question it, not because it was sacred, but because it felt true. Now the woman moves to your underarms, where she applies a thicker layer of paste. The skin is thinner there, the pull sharper. You bite the inside of your cheek and exhale. She says nothing, only presses a cool cloth of wet lotus leaves there afterward, and rubs gently. She finishes with your face, your upper lip, your brow, the fine down along your cheeks. Not with sugaring, but with threading. She uses twisted linen, dyed pale green from malachite dust. The thread snaps with each pull. The hairs lift away like forgotten thoughts. When it is done, she washes you with rose water and crushed date pits, then rubs your skin with oil, thick, fragrant, the scent of blue lotus, frankincense and resin. You stand slowly, limbs humming, robe loose against your skin, now free of interruption. You feel as if the heat passes differently over you now, not clinging, but sliding past. You are Egyptian now, not the Egypt of pharaohs carved into stone, but of daily ritual and sand between your toes. Your body is tended with fire and sugar and silence. You do not smooth your skin to imitate queens. You do it because the Nile demands order, because the desert leaves no room for excess. The mist settles thick over the fields this morning, clinging low between the furrows like an animal that does not want to leave. You're already awake, crouched at the edge of the stream where the water runs cool and steady over smooth stones, your breath rising in little clouds as you scoop it into a worn wooden bowl. The village behind you is quiet still, the cattle silent, the blacksmith's forge cold, the woven walls of the roundhouses glistening with dew. But in the women's tent the preparations have already begun. Inside, a low fire crackles under a hanging pot of clay-thickened water. The smell is strong. Oak ash, lye, iron. Someone has steeped elderflower leaves into the mix. They say it calms the skin, though no one speaks of it aloud. Around the fire, 4 women work, grinding herbs, stripping wool, sharpening the edges of horn blades passed down through blood and name. When you enter, no one greets you. They don't need to. You remove your cloak, hang it on the peg, and kneel. You begin by rubbing your arms with a ball of coarse wool. It's been soaked in ash water and twisted tight until it hardened into something dense and prickly. You scrub. First your forearms, then thighs, then calves. The ash lifts the old skin, the wool takes the rest. Hair rises reluctantly, dragged by friction, by repetition. Some parts redden, some don't. You've done this since you bled the first time. You know how much pressure to use. You know where to avoid the scars. A woman beside you hands over the clay. River mud darkened with powdered bark and a drop of sheep fat. It smells of soil and something bitter. You spread it over your limbs with flat hands, coating the skin in a layer that tightens almost as soon as it's laid. You sit cross-legged as it dries, listening to the slow breath of the others, the scrape of horn against stone, the rustle of someone threading new cord through an amulet. It is not a silent ritual, but no words are wasted. When the clay cracks, a blade is passed to you, curved, flat, made from horn or polished iron. You scrape carefully, removing the dried paste, and with it, the softened hair beneath. It takes time. You must move with the grain in some places, against it in others. Each scrape is small, deliberate, part of the rhythm passed from body to blade to earth. In Gaul, your people do not worship smoothness as a principle, but they understand its purpose. Before a celebration, a burial, a battle, the hair is managed, cleaned, scraped. The warriors oil their arms and chest before paint is applied. The women clear the skin before the gods are asked for favour. A body is not purified by intention alone. It must be tended layer by layer. You finish the scraping and wash with the cooled water brought from the stream. It stings a little. You rub with cloths dipped in nettle tea, not because it soothes, but because it alerts the body, because it reminds you that the skin, though smooth, is still yours, still present. Someone offers you a balm of crushed yarrow and sheep tallow. You take only a small amount, rub it into the spots most raw. It seals the ritual without softening its memory. When you rise and dress again, your tunic slips more easily over your limbs. You feel the brush of fabric not as friction, but as flow. There is no extra, nothing that clings. You leave the tent with arms still warm from the fire, legs clean, feet grounded. You do not speak of what was done. You simply walk. You are Gallic now. Your skin carries the scent of clay and ash and distant fire. You have stripped not to please, not to prove, but to prepare. You are ready. For war, for feast, for mourning. And if the gods glance your way, they will not see disorder. They will see effort. They will see skin shaped by the land that bore it. The air is clean here, washed by pine and thyme, the kind of stillness that only exists in the hours before sunlight spills fully into the Hannock courtyard. A jade-glazed basin rests beneath a ginkgo tree, its surface trembling slightly from the morning breeze, its contents cold and faintly scented with plum blossom. You kneel on the wooden floor just outside the threshold of the inner room, sleeves rolled carefully, your hair bound in a single knot. It is the day before Gwanri, the coming-of-age ceremony, and your skin must be readied. The woman who enters carries a lacquered box of tools, not of steel or razors, but of silk thread, stone powder, and tiny brushes carved from bamboo root. She is not a servant. She is a caretaker of rituals. She does not ask you to speak, only to breathe. She uncovers a dish of finely ground porcelain, white, delicate, the remains of crushed, unfinished vessels, and mixes it with cooled rice water until it forms a pale paste. This she applies to your arms, your legs, your shoulders, with slow circular motions. The paste settles into the skin, pulling warmth to the surface. Not abrasive, just present. Then she takes the thread. It is dark, ink black, stiffened with soot and oil, twisted by hand in front of the hearth until it holds tension. She loops it around her fingers and bends close, eyes narrowed, breath steady. With a flick and twist, she threads your skin, lifting each hair with a soft snap so quiet it sounds like fabric shifting underfoot. She begins with your forearms. The hair there is fine, but she is methodical. She does not rush. In Joseon Korea, a woman's skin is not simply her own. It is her discipline, her mirror, her breath. The Yangban daughters, the scholars' wives, the court performers, all bear smoothness not as luxury but as necessity. You have watched your mother prepare herself before tea ceremonies, plucking her brows with silver tweezers, applying pearl powder in layers so thin they seem to dissolve in light. But beneath the cosmetics is the foundation, the cleared skin, the absence of what should not be seen. The thread moves now to your thighs, your shins, the down along your nape. The paste is reapplied where skin has grown too warm, and a cloth soaked in barley tea soothes each newly bare patch. There is no blood, only a faint pinkness, like the first bloom of azalea in spring. She does not touch your underarms, that you must do yourself later, alone, a private rite, unobserved. But she finishes your face, carefully shaping your brow, threading the faint hair above your lips, dusting your cheeks with ground mung bean to reduce heat. She does not ask how it feels. She knows. It is not comfort that she offers, it is clarity. When she's finished, she washes your arms in warm chrysanthemum water and presses a cloth of mulberry silk into your hands. You dry yourself in silence. The morning light has shifted. The basin reflects the ginkgo leaves now, golden and trembling in a breeze that barely touches the ground. You do not yet look different, but you feel it. The robe falls over your shoulders like breath over still water. You are Joseon now. You carry not just etiquette, but refinement etched into the body like calligraphy on parchment. You do not smooth yourself for vanity nor shame. You do it for the same reason the brush meets paper, to write yourself clearly into the world. The light falls sideways through the eucalyptus trees, dappled and warm, touching the red earth with the quiet reverence of early morning. Smoke rises from a small fire nearby, the scent of burning bark and resin drifting gently over the clearing. The cicadas are not yet loud. The birds call once and go still. It is the hour before ceremony, and already your body feels the gravity of what is coming. You sit on a woven mat, legs stretched before you, back straight. Across from you, the elder woman mixes ochre with crushed charcoal and kangaroo fat in a bowl made from a hollowed gourd. She does not speak. Her face is lined with sun and memory, and her hands are stained red from 100 rituals past. Her tools are simple. Strips of bark, feathers bound with hair, a blade chipped from quartzite. The rhythm is hers, older than the trees, older than the wind. She begins not with scraping, but with smoke. A branch of green gum leaves is pressed to the fire. It smokes thickly, sweet and bitter, and she waves it around your legs, your chest, your arms, letting the scent settle into your skin, letting the smoke drive out what should not remain. Dust, insects, fear. The body must be made ready, not just for paint, but for presence. When she's satisfied, she rubs warm emu oil into your limbs, softening the skin, making the hairs stand in preparation. Then, with practiced care, she takes the quartzite blade and presses it gently to your leg. The scrape is shallow, patient, not a slash, not an attack. She removes the hair with the same attention she would give to shaping a tool or drawing a pattern in the sand. You feel each pass like a soft song, the blade pulling not just the hair, but what clings to it. Old sweat, old dirt, old fear. Among your people, this is not grooming, this is tuning. Before corroboree, before songlines are sung across the land, before bodies are painted with the stories of ancestors, the flesh must be made into canvas. Hair disrupts the lines. Oil must flow evenly. The markings must sit against the skin without obstruction. You're not becoming more beautiful. You're becoming more visible. To the land, to the spirits, to yourself. She moves now to your arms, then to the underarms, where the blade lifts hair in careful short strokes. There is no pain, only heat. The oil soothes. She wipes the blade between passes, rubbing it on a strip of bark laid beside the bowl. There are no mirrors, but you can feel the change, your skin warming, your limbs opening. Once your arms and legs are cleared, she braids a length of hair with possum fur and dips it in ash. With this, she threads your face. A practice not done often, only before rare ceremonies, only when the face must carry full meaning. She loops the braid, twists, pulls. It snaps lightly as it lifts the fine hairs at your cheeks, your brow. You breathe slowly. She works quickly. There is nothing casual about it. Every stroke is a decision. When the removal is done, she rubs you again with oil, mixed now with powdered ochre, a base layer for the paint to come. The colour sinks into your pores. The sun has begun to rise higher, and the birds are louder now. You feel as if the world has returned to its full shape, and you are a part of it again. Cleaned, oiled, cleared of excess. You are Aboriginal now. You belong to land that is song and silence, to a people who speak through movement, whose bodies are not blank but built into stories. Hair grows, and when it does not belong it is removed, with stone, with oil, with care. Because the body is not separate from the spirit. It is its carrier, its echo. The sky above the palace shifts between pearl and blue, the kind of morning light that catches on marble and pools softly in the shadows of carved jarlis, patterned screens where sunlight filters into lace. You walk beneath flowering arches heavy with jasmine, the scent thick and constant trailing into the private gardens where the women of the Zenana prepare not for public display, but for balance, for stillness, for the long ritual of tending the self. Here in the shaded alcove the floor is cool beneath your feet, inlaid with agate and mother of pearl. Petal-strewn basins are placed at each corner. The water is faintly clouded with milk and lime. Rose petals float like faded stars across the surface. You lower yourself onto the cushioned bench, letting the fabric slip from your shoulder as the Ateran, the perfumer, the caretaker, enters with her small brass tray. It carries only what is necessary: a few silver pins, a pot of sugared wax, and a coil of black thread wound around a sandalwood stick. She begins with ubtan, a paste made of chickpea flour, turmeric, milk, and sandalwood. Warmed in her hands, it smells of sunlight and root. She rubs it gently into your arms, your legs, your neck, not only to cleanse, but to soften the hair and bring blood to the surface. The paste dries quickly in the heat, tightening across your skin. She rubs it away in short, rhythmic circles, taking fine hairs with it, leaving behind a golden dust and the scent of old earth. Then comes the wax. Made of jaggery sugar boiled down with lime juice and alum, it rests in her palm like amber. She works it first with her fingers, warming it into pliancy, then presses it along your skin in careful strips, the backs of your thighs, your underarms, the line of your stomach. She uses cotton cloths dipped in rosewater, smoothing them down with her palm before pulling sharply, cleanly, away. The sting is swift, but already fading as her hand follows with a cool compress of vetiver and mint. Among the Mughal elite, smooth skin is part of nazakat, refinement, the art of being tended, the grace not of perfection, but of devotion. Hair, while natural, is seen as noise, something to be quieted, removed so the body may speak more clearly in its posture, its scent, its serenity. The emperor's wives, the poetesses, the court dancers, all go through this process, not for men, not for God, for discipline, for the self, as garden and gesture. Now she threads your face, starting at the brow, moving across your cheeks, your upper lip, even the soft down beneath your jaw. The thread moves fast, snapping rhythmically, the sound like silk being torn. You feel each pull, but do not wince. This is a language older than you, one of repetition, of daily soft offerings. Your eyes water only slightly. She places a drop of rose attar beneath your nose. You breathe in. Finally, she coats your limbs in aloe oil pressed with crushed citrus peel. It sinks into the freshly bare skin, cooling it, adding sheen. The touch is deliberate, reverent, as if the body is not being adorned, but returned to its original state. You rise slowly. The robe they hand you is thin cotton, embroidered in silver thread, It falls against your skin without friction. You feel air differently now, as if your whole surface has become receptive. The sound of birds echoes more clearly in the garden. The breeze plays more deeply across your arms. You are Mughal now, a woman of painted marble pools and rosewater, of silence broken only by flute and ink. Your body is cared for in layers, waxed, threaded, dusted, oiled. Not for the gaze of another, but because the skin is a manuscript, and each treatment a line in verse. And as the first call to the midday prayer rolls softly over the minarets, and the scent of citron and vetiver drifts again on the air, the story, fragrant, pulled with silver and wrapped in sunlight, continues still. The wind does not stop here. It speaks through the cracks of every shelter, presses its weight into every seam of fur and skin. Outside, the snow is not falling. It is flying, horizontal, stinging, weaving itself into drifts as tall as a hunter. But inside the igloo, the air is warm with seal oil and breath. A hush held between the flickers of flame that cast low shadows on walls, packed tight with snow and patience. You sit cross-legged on the layered hides, your feet bare, hands open. The elder woman across from you unwraps her toolkit piece by careful piece. A comb made from caribou bone, a shard of obsidian smoothed by glacier. A thin strand of sinew looped and knotted at both ends. These are not items of vanity. These are survival tools, as essential as spears and sleds, because in a land where every ounce of warmth matters, every layer against the skin must fit precisely. Hair, if left untamed, invites frost, collects sweat, breeds irritation beneath layers of caribou and polar bear fur, and so it is removed, not in ceremony, but in constancy. She does not ask. You lean forward, tilt your chin, and she begins. The comb is first, dipped in a small pot of melted blubber mixed with powdered moss ash. She runs it along your arms, over your shins, through the soft down that gathers on your cheeks. The oil lifts the hair gently, softening it, making it stand upright like tiny threads pulled from skin. It smells of sea and stone, rich and clean in its own cold way. Then she takes the obsidian shard, not jagged, but shaped into a dull curve, honed to perfection over hours. She braces your skin with one hand and scrapes with the other, short motions at first, like clearing frost from bone. The hairs come away silently, falling into a small bowl placed between your knees. The skin underneath flushes pink, but not raw. Her rhythm is measured, patient. Nothing is rushed, nothing wasted. Among the Inuit, smoothness is not for beauty. It is for control. The body must serve function. Hair left under armpits, between thighs, along the edges of the face. It traps moisture. It invites cold burns. And in the tight confines of a shared space, where many breathe close, where layers are everything, the scent of unclean skin is not ignored. It is confronted, managed, smoothed away. Now she threads, a technique passed from one to another without words. She loops the sinew thread around her fingers, twists it sharply, and lifts the small pale hairs from your upper lip and chin. The sound is barely audible. A faint flick, a quick inhale, another pull. She steadies your face with the heel of her palm. Her eyes do not blink. You feel every hair lifted like a memory being undone. There is no ointment here, no rose water, only snow pressed against a cloth, folded once and held briefly to the skin. The cold seals the pores, numbs the sting, teaches the body that it must hold its warmth close now, that the old soft covering has been taken and what remains must endure. You think of the women who prepare the children for winter, their legs scraped, their brows tidied, their cheeks waxed with seal fat. You think of the stories etched on tools, where bodies are shown in profile, sleek and clear, arms stretched toward whale or bear or sky. Even the spirits in the tales, Tornat Sedna, Kalapiluit, are imagined with skin too smooth for snow to cling. A body clean of excess is one that moves freely, that survives. The elder woman finishes. She rubs your limbs one last time with a cloth dipped in a mixture of pine ash and snowmelt, then sits back. The work is done. There is no praise, only a slow exhale as she repacks the tools, wraps the thread, sets the bowl of stray hairs aside to be burned with fishbone and skin later. You pull your furs back on. They lie closer now, pressed tight against your freshly scraped skin. You are Inuit now. Your body is built not for mirrors, but for wind. Not for softness, but for the hard clarity of breath in snow. Hair grows because it must, but you remove it because you must too. Not to beautify, but to exist within the lines of necessity, within the unspoken agreements of cold and closeness and craft. The halls are cool and echoing beneath the Hagia Sophia, where stone whispers louder than speech and candlelight seems to float rather than flicker. You walk not through the basilica itself, but beneath it, through tunnels built for silence, for shade, for retreat. There, where the scent of myrrh still clings to the damp marble, you enter a vaulted chamber where bodies are prepared, not for the court, not for the market, not for seduction, but for grace, for God, and for the mirror. A copper brazier burns low in the centre of the room, fed with resin and clove. Its smoke curls up and out like a rising hymn. To one side is a basin of milk, sheep's, mixed with wine and laurel leaves, and beside it a tray of pumice, beeswax, and long silver tweezers. The nun who tends this place is not old, but her face is as unreadable as mosaic gold. She nods. You remove your robe and kneel before her. The ritual is not secret, but it is not spoken. She begins by washing your limbs with the wine-milk mixture, warm and scented faintly with ash and spice. It softens the skin. It cools the blood. The act itself is old. Older than Byzantium, older than Rome, a practice inherited like scripture, to purify the outer form so that what lies within may be less veiled. With a block of pumice she rubs gently in slow, even circles, over arms, over legs, over the soft slope of the belly and the curve of the hip. The pumice lifts not only dead skin, but hairs thinned by time and effort. It is not an immediate smoothness. It is gradual, worked in patience, layered like a psalm. Then she applies the wax, beeswax warmed with ash, and a drop of lavender oil, stirred until it moves like honey, but holds like clay. She spreads it thinly with a flat bone spatula, pressing it into the skin, pausing. Then she tears. The sound is swallowed by the chamber's thick air. The pain is brief, but real, a reminder that this is not pleasure, this is discipline, that even the body must be corrected. In Constantinople, beauty is both caution and currency. Hair is controlled, managed. The devout pluck their brows to better express humility. Court women remove even the smallest trace of growth along the jaw, the arms, the back. A body must be ready not just for gaze, but for reflection. It must not interfere with the sanctity of cloth. Silks from Antioch, linens from Syria, which must drape without resistance, without interruption. You have seen the Empress, veiled but gleaming, her skin unmarred, her hair confined to elegant control, and you have seen the icons, saints painted with skin so smooth it might have been poured, their bodies radiating stillness beneath the gold leaf. The nun threads your face now, starting with the brow, then the upper lip, the temples. Her fingers are quick. She twists and snaps the fine silk thread like she is winding prayer beads. You feel tears at the corners of your eyes, not from sorrow, but from the simplicity of sensation, the momentary sting of being unmade. She finishes with a balm made of fig sap and rose oil, pressed into your skin with 2 fingers in the shape of a cross. It smells of garden and blood and sanctity. You feel raw, but new, not wounded, revealed. You are Byzantine now. Your skin is the surface of a manuscript prepared to receive illumination. Your body has been shaped by wax and smoke, by the discipline of form, by hands that believe in the sacredness of the incomplete being refined. Hair is not sin, but it is interruption, and you have chosen, like those before you, to remove it so that silence may rest more fully against your flesh. From the steamy gardens of Mughal palaces to the icy winds of the Arctic coast, from the shadowed shrines of the Indus Valley to the firelit roundhouses of ancient Gaul, you have walked through centuries not just in places but through bodies. Bodies like yours, like mine, like all of ours. Hair grows. That is the constant. What changes, what evolves, is what we do about it. How we touch it, how we remove it, how we live with or without it. Some scraped with obsidian, others threaded with sinew, some waxed with resin, sugared with ash, rubbed raw with pumice, or smoothed with wool soaked in lye. Some did it in silence, others sang. some prepared for war or prayer or beauty or burial, and often the line between sacred and practical was blurred beyond meaning. You may have come to this story wondering, did Cleopatra wax? Did Vikings shave? Was everyone in ancient times just fuzzy and free? And the answer, like most truths buried beneath time, is yes, and no, and not exactly. Yes, Cleopatra and her kin likely removed hair with sugar and lime, practiced the same techniques Egyptian women had refined for generations. Vikings too plucked and shaved, using razors made from bone and tweezers carved with runes, not for beauty alone, but to show order, power, care. And yet, many others lived unshaved, unthreaded, untouched, not because they didn't care, but because in their world, hair was not shame, it was simply there. Across the empires and tribes and stone walls of time, people managed the body like they managed crops, fires, dreams, not always to tame it, but to acknowledge it, to participate in its impermanence. You now carry all those stories with you, from milk baths in Alexandria to bone blades in the snow. Perhaps when you next wash your face or pluck a brow, or leave your hair to grow untouched, you'll feel the trace of those quiet rituals lingering on your skin, like a memory you didn't know was yours, because what we do with our bodies is never just surface, it's always history, and now the long thread winds its way to rest. The story, waxed, scraped, threaded, shaved, ends, but you're still here, still listening, still alive in your own skin. Good night.